the island. I'll get you there.
Yes, I'm here. It's your mic. Okay. Right. Okay. All right. Right. Okay. Right. Okay. So what do you think? I'd like to start at 4? That should work okay for me. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Yeah, that should be okay. Oh, really? Right.
Greetings, everyone. Hopefully everybody's having a good day. Give me a quick second, Alex. Okay, go ahead and talk for me.
All right, how am I sounding? Coming in clear, coming in loud, coming in good?
And coming in proud.
Yay.
Loud, proud, and proud of it.
I guess so.
I don't know what we're going for. So, welcome to the pre-show, everybody, because we're waiting for Brenton to get here. But, well, we have a couple of things that we can get into in the meantime before Brenton gets in here, and we can talk some stories because we've got lots to do here. February was fairly productive.
Yeah.
I want to say fairly productive, but not like huge announcements. They still were pretty few and far between. But nonetheless, stuff that we can get our hands on. First of all, Alex, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, actually. You know, last week I got a video up finally. Did something. Yay. Quit being
Yay!
a lazy guy.
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being lazy.
Well, I also prefer to call it selective participation.
Kind of like how you have Valentine's Day as Singles Awareness Day.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, there is one thing that we can get into. I want... Okay, this will probably be a March story because it literally broke today. But we might be talking about this in March, and that is, have you heard have you heard about the leaks coming from the Star Wars hotel?
I just heard that it's like really expensive and the design aesthetic is really off-putting and bizarre.
So basically a bunch of videos leaked of like the first round of people that did it. Spoilers, it's not good.
Yeah, I've heard that's not good.
So for those who don't know what we're talking about, I believe this thing has been helmed by the Disney Cruise Lines, but it's not a cruise. So
Right.
they're creating the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel, and basically you would be traveling around in this Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel and going around to various planets or whatnot.
Yeah.
And for those who think that this is interesting, before you pull out your wallet, it is $6,000 a day for their highest package. $6,000 a day. That's like Jurassic Park money, right? Actually, no. Jurassic Park money is what, $10,000 a day? I think that's what the lawyer says.
10,000 a day, 20,000 a day.
Yeah, exactly. And people will pay it. We'll even have a coupon day.
We'll have a coupon day.
So at that point, like a bunch of videos leaked on Twitter and YouTube of stuff in there. First of all, I love the fact that this is something that the critics got mad about. There's a cantina on the Galactic Star Cruiser, and so they wanted they were hoping for the pure cantina experience, right?
Right. So like a movie, right? Like the movie.
Yeah, well, they were also hoping to be able to have like a bunch of Star Wars themed drinks, you know, to be able to, and maybe have them look like they would in the movie, as well as have that classic cantina entertainment, right?
Right.
First of all, every drink that was on there was healthy. None of it was alcohol.
Oh, wow.
In fact, one of the things that gets shown on Twitter is that there was a dispenser of various different colored forms of milk. So you could get you could get green milk, blue milk, and I saw red milk on there. Okay, so you had that. The entertainment that they had was, from what I understand, so it's a chick dressed up as a Twi'lek, but she's kind of a bad singer, and the DJ that's behind her that's supposed to be Rodian is probably a little too into what she's doing. Because it really just looked like they had put on a CD, because there were tons of times where her hands were just not on the panel at all.
Right.
So they just ran a CD.
Okay.
Also, there would be occasional points like with a cruise where you'd be able to get off at a port and be able to explore, right? So the way that they would do this is that you would get on a shuttle. But basically, we now know financially that they were the equivalent of U-Haul trucks, where they would drive you off to a random backlot that has nothing but gift shops. for
Oh.
for Star Wars merch,
Mhm.
specifically new trilogy merch. In fact, one of them goes to Galaxy's Edge. Except the way that I understand the cruise rules is like, just because you're part of the park does not mean you can go out to the park, because you
Wow.
wouldn't technically have a pass for it. So, yeah, that's going to work out well. And overall, the experience was, in a lot of these people's statements, very dull.
Mm-hmm.
The cruise even gets invaded by stormtroopers of the First Order like 3 times, and they look like they're a bunch of dunces who don't know what they're doing.
Right.
I actually saw somebody put this up on Twitter, actually putting legit stormtroopers to shame. So yeah, overall, not worth the $6,000 a day.
Definitely not.
And the and for those who are probably asking, what's the minimum? $4,800 a day.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not going to recommend that anybody do that. And if you do that, then you obviously either A, have a lot of money and need to go spend it on something, or B, you're a dumbass who needs somebody to manage your money, because that ain't worth it at
Yeah.
all. I especially loved where they had like this coordinated lightsaber fight that's supposed to happen between Kylo and Rey, and they picked I mean, obviously with Kylo there's a costume and you don't have to worry about that, but the Rey that they got doesn't even fit most of the body type of Daisy Ridley. And on top of that, they're supposed to have lines that no one could hear.
Right.
Because their mics kept cutting out, because they were having like these epic lightsaber effects and all that were way louder than the mics. So,
Gee. Sounds like Disney should have maybe piloted this program a bit more.
what's sad is they did. They actually did rehearse this stuff. And apparently, the rehearsal didn't work. I can't say how I know that, but let's just say a little bird told me that the costuming department was there for the rehearsals, and even the rehearsals weren't very good.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, Disney is not paying top dollar for this. They just want your top dollar.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. So, yeah, at that point, I don't know. Were you actually considering doing this?
Oh, hell no. No.
No. Like, I mean, let's just say for the sake of argument, you had $1 million. And so, and at that point you look at it, would you still, like, would you try it?
No.
Yeah.
Even if I
wouldn't
had
either.
the money.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
either. Especially after I heard how Galaxy's Edge went. I absolutely was not going to spend money on anything Star Wars at this point, because it's ridiculous. And speaking of things that are more successful than the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel, hey Brenton, how you doing?
What? What is that even supposed to mean?
Oh my gosh, do you not know about this?
I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking
Okay.
about now.
So, you know that Galaxy's Edge happened for Disneyland, right?
Yeah, I was there like all 5 days I was in Disneyland pre-COVID.
Okay. So, I'm just curious, your thoughts on it.
I enjoyed it. It was one of the most immersive experiences I had at Disneyland in a very, very, very long time.
Okay.
Like I felt like I've been to Disneyland enough times to completely understand that everybody's in character. And so for me, it's more fun to take people who have never been, because it's like, oh, wow, the magic, had the experience. Whereas for me, I see through all that glamour. When it came to Galaxy's Edge, since that was a new experience for me, it felt like going to Disneyland for the first time, where I couldn't see past the glamour because of how immersive the experience and walking around that part of the park was.
Okay. So at that point, Disney decided that they took their cruise line division and had them work on a Star Wars experience, basically.
Okay.
So it's called the Galactic, I'm probably saying it wrong. It's like the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel. where like you can go on. It's basically like a cruise, but it's not like a cruise ship. It's supposed to be a giant starship hotel that will give you like a full-on Star Wars experience. And I hate to tell you this, Disney did not pay top dollar to get this off the ground, because the first round of people that did it have basically let their opinions be known on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook and all that, and they're not good. So this is supposed to be a 7-day experience, I believe. And just to give you kind of a viewpoint here, Brenton, the lowest price to be able to do this for 7 days is $4,800 per day.
Oh my gosh.
The highest is
That's
$6,000 per day.
Like, I was going to say something inappropriate, so I'm going to refrain. But, I mean, they better be serving me like Jabba the Hutt.
They didn't do anything of the sort.
That is really disappointing to hear.
So basically what would happen is, so you get to be able to do a bunch of Star Wars experiences on this that are very, very much not rehearsed, or at least not rehearsed properly. And you get to deal with all of that stuff, plus the cantina experience, which a lot of people were apparently excited about, because they wanted, to go into a cantina in the Star Wars universe and be able to try out a bunch of like Disney, like some Star Wars themed drinks.
Naturally, yeah.
You don't. There's no alcohol in it at all. In fact, the one thing that people showed on Twitter is there was a dispenser of different kinds of milk. So you could get blue milk and green milk and red milk, I think. But no, you couldn't get alcohol there because it's for kids.
I know
right?
that, right? Which that part makes sense. I know in Galaxy's Edge they had only like 2 different like flavors of milk.
Yes.
And I tried both of them, and well, actually I couldn't try both of them. One of them had pineapple, which I'm allergic to. So I tried the one I could drink, and it was fine. I had more fun building the lightsaber. That was my favorite part of the park.
So at that point, yeah, and they also had cantina and entertainment. They had a Twi'lek singer who apparently couldn't sing. And then they also had a Rhodian DJ who was supposed to be playing one of those complex instruments, except the problem was 80% of the time her hands were off the console, so it's very clearly that it was like a CD that was playing at that point.
Uh-huh.
Not only that, but you would occasionally, well, this is supposed to happen frequently in there, you would get invaded by the First Order. So, and this would happen, guys, this is 7 days. This would happen multiple times where you would get invaded by the First Order, and let's just say, to a lot of the critics' reviews, they put actual stormtroopers to shame. Very incompetent. They actually try to put like a draping flag over it with the Imperial logo and all that. They couldn't figure out how to do it. How to drape the flag down. And it gets better. There's supposed to be a lightsaber fight between Rey and Kylo. Now, Kylo is easy to do because he's in a costume. So you can't tell if he's right build or whatever. The girl they got to play Rey doesn't even look like the build of Daisy Ridley. And in fact, she's smaller than Daisy Ridley and a little bit more muscular than her. And not only that, but they couldn't get the audio right because they're supposed to have lines in the middle of their lightsaber fight, but everybody only could hear the lightsaber effects that were going through the speakers in the place and not their mics.
Oh no.
So that happened. And on top of that, occasionally, kind of like with a cruise, you'd be able to get off at a port and be able to go explore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the same experience here. You would get on a shuttle, but we now know financially that they're basically glorified U-Haul trucks. And they would take you to a random backlot where they put up a bunch of merchandise stores for you to be able to... And we're talking small areas. But nothing but merchandise stores so you can just go and buy Star Wars merchandise. Oh, by the way, one of them is Galaxy's Edge. And since technically you've only paid for the cruise, not for a pass to Disneyland, you can't leave. You can't leave Galaxy's Edge. You can't go to the rest of the park.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. $6,000 a day, Brenton. $6,000. 6,000 for the highest.
Like, super not worth it to me.
Mm-mm.
Before you start, I know like this is still like pre-showish, and
Yes.
it is like 8:01. Give me, and I know that we're already live because I pulled open the chat. If everybody could give me just 1 second, I think somebody's knocking on my
Oh, you're good.
door, which is
You're
a
good.
little creepy.
You're
Which
good.
is a little creepy to me because I just got home.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
give me just a second.
So yeah. As we were saying, Alex, you're not gonna pay for this.
Oh, no way, no.
And I see we have a live chat. Welcome everybody, live chat, and welcome to J-Rock. Are you paying $6,000 a day for a very pathetic Star Wars cruise? Because I
No.
guarantee you that I have.
I'd rather just go to Disneyland.
Yeah. So the other thing that makes this worse is I can't give additional information, but let's just say a little bird who's very well acquainted with the program has even openly admitted to me, again, I can't say who, or I can't give additional details, but apparently the rehearsals, there were rehearsals that happened before the first wave of people. They did not go well. And
That's not good.
And actually, according to the people who dealt with the first wave, they were worse than the rehearsals. So, yeah, Disney needs to rethink this just a little bit, people.
That's really just like, I mean, oh, Disney.
Here's the best thing that I've seen on Twitter said about this. They want you to pay top dollar for an experience that they didn't want to put top dollar into. So they want you to put Jurassic Park levels of money onto this, and they didn't want to, put in the effort to give you a fully immersive Star Wars experience.
That's just way too bad. Like, honestly, that like, and for how much they're charging, and for what the experience is, it's great that people are making others and bringing awareness to the fact that, hey, this is super money, and I don't think you should spend your hard-earned cash and savings on a mediocre experience.
No, I'm glad the people came out. These were supposed to be the critics that were supposed to speak well of it, and this is how you know that they're accurate. Disney has now stepped in and taken down the offending videos that were going out around Twitter and Reddit and everywhere else. They took down the videos, and the posts are mysteriously gone. I have a feeling Disney had something to do with that, too. So,
Streisand effect.
What was that?
Disney should learn what the Streisand effect is.
Well, this is like, what, time 4 that they need to learn what it is?
Yeah.
Because they just don't know at this point. I'm thoroughly convinced that we need to send a 10-year-old in there to teach them what the Streisand effect is. Because a 10-year-old on Twitter knows what it is. And knows how stupid this is.
So not to deviate from this conversation, which, I mean, I would super love to talk more about this experience. However, I just read the title of this month's podcast episode, and my curiosity has been automatically piqued.
Yeah,
so
actually, you just reminded me, because I need to fix it really fast.
With Black and... God,
it's supposed to be with Blackjack. I didn't notice it until I tried to amend the... the Twitch one, and the Twitch one wouldn't go up. So, really quick, let me fix it really fast. Obviously, if you guys don't get the joke, it is a reference to Bender, because we are going to be talking about Bendergate tonight.
Ugh. Please stop adding gate as a suffix to everything, people, internet,
Alex,
everyone.
I'm going to ask you to contain this, because I need this to happen when we get to the story, okay? I need this to happen there.
God, if only the Democrats that year had their convention at the Hilton, then this wouldn't be a thing.
Then it would. Well, I mean, I get your point, but then it would be Gamer Hilton,
Could be
Comics Hilton. Poor Paris Hilton. Everybody would just be like, "Well, she's the epitome of all Hiltons." So, all right. Actually, let's go ahead and get this started, since we got people here and all that stuff. So, really quick, let me get this recording so that I don't have to worry about RSS feed nonsense. Come on. There we go. And because I'm such a dingus and I always forget to do this, it's going to freeze for just a second, guys.
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious It has begun!
Calm down, Doctor. Now is not the time for fear.
Time to misbehave.
Give them nothing, but take from them everything!
Program complete. Enter when ready.
Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, the podcast, where we talk the month's events in Geek, specifically for this one. And this is your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drak. I hope everybody's had an awesome week thus far, day thus far, or month thus far, comparing on when you're joining us for this. And for those who do not know what the heck is going on, this is going to basically be February in review, because we're going to be covering all of the geeky stories, both that you requested as well as that we thought needed to be mentioned for the month of February. So hopefully you guys can all strap in. We are also obviously being joined by our live chat because we love having you guys here. And we are also being joined by my panel of fellow geeks, fellow YouTubers, fellow content creators, fellow awesome guys in general. And apparently one of us, the camera hates him. I don't know what the heck is going on with this camera. So, Alex, the Shadow Blazer, let's go ahead and start with you. Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing well, actually, thank you. Like I said when we got started, I don't know if this was on the pre-show, if I mentioned on the pre-show or not, but yes, I actually got a review up last week.
Yep.
Took me all day last Saturday to put it together. Editing it was quite the challenge, mostly because I kind of got a lot of the order of sequence wrong when I was trying to sum everything up. But anyway,
what's this a review of?
It's of an anime. It was the anime Blue Reflection Ray, which is the prelude to the newer game that I've been playing a lot of lately.
Gotcha.
So yeah, and it was a bit of a pain to put that one together. Plus, I also did like a last minute script rewrite of that, like a few days right before it.
Wait. Are you saying that even YouTubers do rewrites?
Yes, we do.
And
we do rewrites. Yes.
Obviously, obviously that means it's going to be a bad video, right? Because you had to do reshoots.
No,
I love the generalized tone that this takes with Twitter. Is like immediately if the word reshoot or retake has been said, immediately that's going to be bad. It just depends on the context that's being there. But welcome, Alex. And then also we are being joined by Brenton Volley. Brenton, how are you doing this fine day?
I'm tired.
I'm there with you. I'm there with you. I'm there as well, just because we've gotten back into the swing of things with work, as well as it's a busy week for my kids. And also, I'm just gonna go ahead and ask, how was your February, guys?
Like
as a month at whole, was it crap or was it enjoyable?
Well, in terms of like geekiness, or just
no, just in terms of we don't want 2022 to be the same as 2021.
Oh, well, I don't think that's happening at all. It was a bit more of a challenging month in terms of my job. In other words, like, it's been pretty great. I can't complain too much.
I will tell you that my month has been interesting, but that's primarily because my house is still the Houses of Healing from the Lord of the Rings, where we keep bringing in colds. This is one of the downsides of having kids, is that, and Brenton knows this to some extent, it doesn't matter. Like, they're in an elementary school experience, even in a middle school experience, you will still have illness like everywhere in there. I especially loved when our teachers, apparently our school district decided that our teachers needed a mental health day because of the fear of COVID that they're currently dealing with, and my oldest daughter's school had just had basically a big stint of I want to say it was sinusitis. It was like a bunch of like sinus pressure headaches and things like that. So I'm like, you'd think you'd be worried about other things because you can confirm sinusitis was in the school and COVID hasn't been there in a while. But
Well-
okay, they apparently needed a mental health day.
Well, that's good that they took a mental health day
I'm glad
because
they took a mental health day, but I wish it was for different reasons.
well, it could have been for a plethora of reasons,
Of regens.
and I was gonna say, I was just gonna add on to what you're just saying really quick, which even though it has nothing to do with the show, essentially my ex-husband had shared with me one time how he saw another kid spit into the mouth of another child
Yeah.
while volunteering
Yep.
at my son's school, and I was just like, ugh, like no, ew, why?
Yeah,
Like-
this was a thing that happened when I was growing up in school too, where a bunch of the like they're supposed to be the manly boys of the class, like they're the big tough ones, and they would show how tough they are by doing shit like that. And funniest thing is like they would be gone for a week after that, and they wouldn't have those displays of masculinity anymore.
My lord.
Almost like their parents
Anywho.
told them not to. So, yeah, that's a fun thing. Alex, what about you? Because I know that inventory season is done, but
Mhm.
have you now been overwhelmed by people asking for random random coffee cups or whatever?
Not as much. I've seen like I've only seen one of them come in a handful of times.
Okay.
No, I mean at work our February's been a little bit on the slower side. Just Valentine's Day, except for Valentine's Day.
Okay.
Not to say we don't have our share of issues. I mean, I swear it's like I know this has been going on
See,
pretty
every
much
time you say
nationwide.
Valentine's Day, I now need to correct you and
Yeah, I'm
say
sorry,
Singles Awareness Day. And it's because of you, damn it.
Yep, it is Singles Awareness Day,
Yes.
and which came and went pretty smoothly. But
Yes.
I was getting into. I know this has been kind of an issue, like nationwide, but it feels like our store, especially too. It's like shoplifters have declared open season on us. Even today, we had a person just grab a bunch of stuff and run out the door. It's like, it's ridiculous. We've been having so many
And you
shoplifters.
can't do anything about it.
No, we can't. It's very strict company policy. You cannot chase them. You cannot stop them.
See,
you
I
can't
thought that
do
was just
anything.
happening in California.
Oh no, I mean it's happening everywhere. I mean
Oh my
it's always happened at
gosh.
our store, but I feel like it's especially bad lately. I mean, not even just this year. I feel like even last year too is pretty bad. But
See, at that
but-
point, I would just go to your store and I would take something right in front of your managers. I would leave, and they'd be like, "Don't walk away with that," and I'd be like,
you know,
Because
people
it's
have
how
done that.
because of how
People
stupid
have
that
absolute-
is.
It is. And look, I mean, obviously the company doesn't want us to get stabbed or shot over a few dollars of merchandise, but it's more, I wish they would, like, have loss prevention actually do something, come in, have a detective. It's like,
Right.
I don't get it. They just don't, for whatever reason, the company just doesn't want to do anything to elevate the problem that we're having.
How dare you ask for that, Alex? How dare you ask that the company spend money for the benefit of its employees? How
Yeah.
dare you ask for that?
Yeah, but even today, I just said this probably already, but even today I saw a dude like with an armful of stuff just run out the door. He did drop a pair of socks, which was pretty funny.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, that's
Ugh.
renewed my lack of faith in human society.
I know.
So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the stories that made up the month of February. Hopefully, I know that we're probably missing a few, but right now what I'm trying to do with these podcasts is I want to make sure that we hit as many of the listener requests as possible, as well as hit the stuff that was relevant that happened in the month of February. And so our top story tonight is that Nintendo Direct. Like that.
Oh, we're going straight to like
This was
The big-
the most
big thing.
requested story that happened, and so yes, we are going right into it.
I'm gonna need to. I only remember the games that I was interested in. So
Well-
I'll pull up what was revealed just so I can refresh my memory really quick.
That's fine, because I'm just going to go quickly over them for this, because our Nintendo talk this week is huge. It's got good, it's got bad. But this is primarily what people wanted us to talk about. So, that Nintendo Direct. This actually created issues for me because when me and Alex, along with Rising Sun Reviews, did a Geek News roundtable about streaming platforms, there were people that were legitimately pissed because the Nintendo Direct had happened the day before. They were pissed because we didn't talk about it. And it was just because I knew that we were going to be talking about it here. So without further ado, let's get into this. We're just going to go over really quickly every game that was announced. And then we'll go over our thoughts about it. So first of all, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 announced for the Switch September 2022. Now for this, I actually wanted to bring this up because I always love to be able to get something from the horse's mouth when we're able to. And with this one, we got just that. So for you, Alex, here is an open letter that was released after the trailer from Mr. Tetsuya Takahashi of Monolith Soft. Hi, everyone. This is Tetsuya Takahashi from Monolith Soft. Hi, Tetsuya! Just over 4 years since the release of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and 1.5 years since the release of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, we now bring to you news regarding the latest game from Monolith Soft, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. As the name indicates, it is the third installment in the Xenoblade Chronicles series, which has gained massive popularity now that it's on the Switch. We are currently making final adjustments to ensure we create the best game possible based on everything we've learned from the past entries in the series. The key visual features features a broken greatsword of the Mechonis and the body of the Urian Titan with a gaping wound. I imagine everyone who saw the trailer was quite surprised by the final scene, and this is what he's talking about. They have actually confirmed this will be the cover image of it, which is the Mechonis sword as well as the Urian Titan being destroyed. What is this visual hinting at? I can't reveal that just yet. What I can tell you is that this visual was conceived quite some time ago. More precisely speaking, we came up with it between the end of development of Xenoblade Chronicles and the beginning of development of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, so it's not something we recently added to the series. We believe the game will be enjoyable for both those who have played Xenoblade Chronicles or Xenoblade Chronicles 2, as well as those who will be playing Xenoblade Chronicles a Xenoblade Chronicles game for the first time. The characters were designed by Masatsugu Saito, who has done the designs for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. While we can't reveal them at this time, Koichi Mugitani created some of the game's key artwork. I believe he worked on the first game. As far as you can see, familiar staff members with the Xenoblade Chronicles series have once again come together to create this game. This is where Alex is going to be a little excited. The game's music was handled by artists who have contributed to the series in the past. The music for Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was composed by Yasunori Mitsuda. He is returning to the series. Manami Kiyota of Ace, Kenji Hiramatsu, which I believe is a return from Xenosaga, and Mariam Abun Nasser, I think is how you say it. The music in this game maintains the unique Xenoblade Chronicles touch while also taking on a new challenge, namely that of integrating a flute-based melody as its motif. The flute is actually one of the key themes in this game. A variety of other elements and themes are hidden in the trailer and will be revealing the details a bit at a time going forward. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is a new adventure bringing together the worlds of Xenoblade Chronicles and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 to take players into the future. While there is still some time left before the release of the game, I hope you'll look forward to it. And in addition to that, we have confirmed that there will be returning characters from the previous two games, because some of those characters be immortal, as Takahashi likes to have immortal characters. So we have Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was announced. That was the biggest one that they had for it. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is getting 48 new tracks as paid DLC. You actually do have to purchase the expansion pack with Nintendo Switch Online to be able to get them. But if you did, the first run of courses will be arriving March 18th and include classic tracks such as Wii Coconut Mall, N64 Choco Mountain, and Tour Tokyo Blur. So if you want the full booster pass, it is $24.99, but you have to have the expansion pack. in order to be able to get it. So if you don't want the N64 and Genesis players just yet, you will have to purchase them. So
I'm just gonna correct you there really quick, Adam. If you own the expansion pass for Nintendo Online, then you gain access to that content. However, you don't have to own the expansion pass in order to gain access. You can
good.
Just pay
if they
for
clarify
it.
that, that's great, because I'm not sure if I want to purchase that.
No. If you don't, you can just pay the $25 and you're good.
Okay.
Or if you have the expansion pass like me, I don't have to pay the $25 because I'm already paying for the expansion pass. However, if I stop paying for the expansion pass, then I lose all 48 tracks and would subsequently have to pay the $25 to get them back.
Okay, so yes, we have that. We also have Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. So this is technically Fire Emblem Warriors 2, but this will be based solely in the universe of 3 houses. So if you specifically love that universe, you will be able to get this on June 24th, 2022. Mario Strikers Battle League will be bringing 5v5 soccer action to the Switch, releasing on June 10th, 2022. This was a big one for a lot of people. Chrono Cross Remastered has been announced for Switch, as well as PC and PS4, PS5, and Xbox. And it will be coming out April 7th, 2022. So, I have seen additional details on this. It is basically an upscaled version of Chrono Cross, an old PS1 game, brought up to look pretty much like if people have played Final Fantasy VIII Remastered. It's about that scale. So at that point, if you want to see the sequel to Chrono Trigger, you are able to see it now, as well as, and this is one of those things I really wish we had Romney for, because he got his wish. The game will also include the Radical Dreamers text adventure that was previously going to be Chrono Cross, but was scrapped. And nothing has been done with it since, even though fans have demanded it. It is coming out. You will be able to play it on Chrono Cross Remastered. So that is happening. Nintendo Switch Sports was announced because we needed another Wii Sports, apparently. I know that a lot of people weren't necessarily excited about that, but it will be releasing April 29th, 2022, and it will blow all of our minds, and we will all own it, because that's what happened with Wii Sports. Triangle Strategy will be getting a free demo that a lot of people have been playing that gives you access to chapters 1 through 3. And from what I understand, it is amazeballs. And I haven't tried it yet, just because I would much rather just play the game. Mecha fans rejoice because the Nintendo Switch will soon be home to remakes of Front Mission 1 and Front Mission 2. These are old games. I think it's Square Enix that made them. And they're mecha games that will now officially be out in remake form. Hopefully, a lot of people are hoping this means they will be hinting at a Front Mission 3, which they've been waiting years for. Splatoon 3 got a Salmon Run, which is an old mode that came in from Splatoon 2. So that is there. This is the most controversial announcement. Metroid Dread got one-hit mode and rookie mode, or as the internet has affectionately called it, games journalist mode. For good reason.
Journalist mode?
Yes. It is.
Okay, you're gonna have to elaborate on that later, but continue with the rest of it.
Kirby and the Forgotten Lands Mouthful Mode will let Kirby become a car on a vending machine, so this was another highlight of the next upcoming Kirby game. Earthbound and Earthbound Beginnings were added to Nintendo Switch Online. So on the NES and Super NES, you can play Mother 1 and Mother 2. No Mother 3 just yet, but, well, Earthbound fans can hope. Also, Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp is launching on April 8th. So you got a release date for that. Another old JRPG that was Japanese exclusive called Live Alive was announced as a remake that will be launching on July 22nd. So once again, this is a JRPG that is basically like Octopath Traveler, but it was a Japanese-only series. Never came to the States, and so they're going to release it here and see how well it does in a remastered form. So you will be able to get that, but it's basically Octopath Traveler before Octopath Traveler. Portal 1 and 2 will be released on Switch later this year, and we actually found out why, because apparently Steam is going to be releasing another little snippet game in the Portal universe. So you got that. MLB The Show 2022 had gameplay footage revealed. Star Wars The Force Unleashed was announced for Switch, so it's going to be brought from PlayStation 3 era to the Nintendo Switch. We also got Disney Speedstorm Racing, which is basically going to be Mario Kart, but with Disney and Pixar characters. No Man's Sky is going to be traveling to Switch this summer. Klonoa fans rejoice because the 2 Klonoa games will be brought to Switch this July in the Lunatea's Veil, I think that's what it's called, yeah, it's going to be the Fantasy Reverie series is how it's going to be released, but it will include Klonoa, Door to Phantomile, and Klonoa 2, Lunatea's Veil. We also got Taiko no Tatsujin Rhythm Festival. It's a taiko drums-based rhythm game that will be coming out for Switch. Cuphead, The Delicious Last Course's paid DLC will be joining Switch's library on June 30th. Assassin's Creed The Ezio Collection will be joining Switch next week from this, so that would be February 17th. Kingdom Hearts Integram Masterpiece for Cloud will be released, so this is where all of the Kingdom Hearts games will be available via Switch streaming, and that was available on February 10th. The latest Gundam game, SD Gundam Battle Alliance, was unveiled at this, and finally, this is another one that Romney would have really liked, because we covered this last year, that Getsu Fumaden, another classic Japanese-only series, is coming to the States, and it actually came out later that day for that Nintendo Direct. So, you have all of that stuff, plus a little bit more, but let's get into these things. So, first of all, Brinton, you wanted me to explain the rookie mode. So
yeah, just really quick, because, or at least what the internet's calling it, because
Games
I'm
journalist
a little
mode?
lost. Yeah.
So
Please help me understand.
when Metroid Dread released, Metroid games tend to be fairly hard. Have you ever played Metroid?
I have watched people play Metroid.
Okay, so Metroid is fairly hard. And Dread was no exception to this because it added new mechanics that were going to basically re-up the difficulty for 2D Metroids. So at that point, it came out with a difficulty spike that a lot of players didn't expect, but was still able to be overcome. And because of that, the game's journalists lost their freaking marbles. In their reviews, they all basically gave it bad scores. Why? Because it's too hard.
That is not a valid reason to give a game a bad
Well, it was for them.
Score.
It was for them. And in fact, they tried to get a debate
ridiculous.
going on Twitter 4 different times on Nintendo adjusting the difficulty in it to incorporate an easy mode. And so this is one of those things that they only incorporated a normal and a hard mode, and I think there's an elite mode as well in the base game, or Dread mode, sorry, is what it was called. But now, so you have 2 new modes added. One is for hardcore Metroid fans, which is basically, I think this is the one that's called Dread mode, but it is one-hit kill. So
that sucks.
Well, but it's built for the Metroid audience, and the Metroid audience like to challenge themselves like that. So this was overly well received, but then they added rookie mode, which is a significant downgrade in difficulty of Metroid Dread to accommodate those who are brand new to the series. Now, here's the thing. Twitter called it games journalism mode. That was not Nintendo's intent. Nintendo's intent was to bring more people into the franchise, which, in my opinion, they did. But I like the fact that Twitter basically blew that up in the face of the game's journalists who complained about its difficulty. And guys, I've said it before and I will say it again. I do not understand why they had any problems, because the game went out of its way to teach you how to play a Metroid game. So at that point, no reason to complain about the difficulty, because it was stupid easy enough to be able to learn from it. My wife watched me play it and she got the gist. Okay, so that's what it is a rookie mode for those who are brand spanking new to the series, and that's fine. I have no problem with that because it brings more people into Metroid, and I want Metroid to survive. So that doesn't necessarily hurt me in the slightest. So hopefully that answers your question, Brenton, but let's get into this. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is the biggest announcement out of this and the one that I know a lot of people wanted to hear our thoughts on. Why? Because some people actually do remember that up until recently, there was only one person that had played the Xenoblade series, and that was Brenton. So, including you played Xenoblade Chronicles X. So at that point, what was your take on the announcement of Xenoblade Chronicles 3?
I was completely amazed and stunned and shocked the entire time. I mean, it's one of those games that comes completely out of left field, and you're just not even remotely expecting
Actually,
it to be
this one was the highly anticipated one.
Really?
Yes, because there were leaks before then that said that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was probably going to be announced.
Oh, well, I've been pretty good about avoiding just like not checking out leaks. So I had no idea. I actually was thinking it was going to be more information or possibly a proper title drop for Breath of the Wild 2, which we didn't get. It's completely fine. E3 is right around the corner.
I suspected that too. Supposedly, I guess they got a Zelda thing going on in June or July. That's their next direct, and a lot of people are expecting that will be completely Breath of the Wild 2 based.
I would hope so at that point. And obviously we can talk about it in, June, July.
Yep.
So,
we
excited.
did hear from Eiji Onuma, the next direct that addresses Breath of the Wild 2, he will give the subtitle for it. So
thank God, because I'm ready to stop calling it Breath of the Wild 2. It's too much of a mouthful. Anywho,
how do you feel about games journalists who keep on calling it the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild?
Yeah, we're not even going to get into that.
All right.
I loved Chronicles #1. Xenoblade 1 was absolutely phenomenal. It was my first real huge dive into such a giant, massively open world RPG like it, and the story just kept me captivated, and I loved it. I loved every single thing about Xenoblade. Okay. Xenoblade Cross and Xenoblade 2, oh my Lanta, I got not even halfway through Xenoblade Cross before I was like, nope, I'm done. And I struggled, cried, and gnashed my teeth throughout all of Xenoblade 2.
Okay.
And so from what we've seen so far with Xenoblade 3, I feel that it's taking...
People don't understand why I'm giggling right here now. He brought this up to me, and I then proceeded to tell him that gameplay has not always been Monolith Soft's strong suit, and I think that actually discouraged you even more.
Well, they did such a great job in Xenoblade 1. They really did, and for some reason, they just went downhill in the last two iterations of the game, especially its spiritual success, the spiritual successor to a spiritual successor. And from what I've read, and from some other details that I was able to scrounge up after the direct, it sounds like they're taking the best part of both 1 and 2.
Yes.
And 3 is going to be fantastic, is going to be great.
Well, so not only that, but the worlds will be merged too. So at that point, if you were... Because here's the thing, with Xenoblade, I've noticed this a lot. Xenoblade has an interesting popularity because either you were into the Project Rainfall when Xenoblade originally came out for Wii, and you had a definite love for that, but then there was also the recent people who tried out Xenoblade 2 for the first time. And so at that point, you had... I don't want to call it divisive, because they aren't. They both are willing enough to admit that there are good things about both games. But they just tend to prefer one game over the other. And that's totally fine. That's actually a divide in the fandom that I can respect. Because then at that point, we can all just hope that Xenoblade 3 incorporates the best of what we loved for both games. Because, as I've mentioned to you, I don't have a beef against Xenoblade 1. I like its story. If anything, the only beefs that I've had with it is that I don't think its Definitive Edition DLC is that great. And it's primarily because there's just a lot of open-ended stuff. There's not a whole lot of story in it. And that's a little irritating. At least to me. But I mean, like, I like Xenoblade 1. I like Xenoblade 2 more, and I've said this to you, and I think Alex has never heard me say this. Xenoblade 2 to me is the closest thing to a sequel to Xenogears I will ever get.
Yes, I do remember you telling me this.
Yes, because there are a lot of elements of Xenoblade 2 that are very, very much straight from Xenogears. And so I like the fact that they did that. And it just makes me all the more excited for when Xenoblade 3 happens and we get to see both worlds. Because for those who don't know this story, like, these worlds were divided dimensionally. And now, at the end of Xenoblade 2, the dimensional rift is no longer there because of the events of Xenoblade 1. So these worlds are going to come together, and that might not necessarily be the best thing for either of them. So that's something...
Not at all, especially with how turbulent the world was in Xenoblade 1,
Mm-hmm.
and just how scientifically screwed over the second one was. I foresee major, like, catastrophe.
Well, you basically walked away with
course
both of them creating new land masses on what we're presuming is Earth, because at the end of Xenoblade 1, you basically saw the... I mean, I hate to spoil this, guys, but these games are fairly old at this point, so I think we've passed the spoiler threshold. You saw the destruction of the Bionis and the Mechonis and them coming down into the endless ocean down there to create land masses. So at that point, you had that, but at the end of Xenoblade 2, you had the destruction of the Cloud Sea, and the Titans that were part of the Cloud Sea were basically becoming land masses in and of themselves for this new world that they would have access to. So at that point, it's a very interesting thing that now that the worlds are merged again, how is that going to come into play?
I mean, you are correct about them being Earth, Adam.
I believe it is. Yeah, I believe that they call it Earth. So
yeah, because I want to say it's number 2 where we learn where the scientists pretty much like screwed it over multiple times over, or I think it was in number 1. Either way, like, scientists got greedy, screwed over to Earth, and then okay.
Well,
so
in particular, 1 got greedy, and so he's the architect that gets referred to in Xenoblade 2, but like he's only vaguely,
that's right.
He's vaguely referred to in Xenoblade 1 because he technically looks the same as the main villain Zanza in it. So at that point,
that's right.
And the dimensional divide was basically him. And so once the architect dies in Xenoblade 2, that's when the rift goes away and these land masses are now being created and a whole new world is being created.
So essentially it is like 2 entirely different cultures coming together, and that's going to cause like a lot of problems.
Yep.
So
well, not only that, but you have new races established as well. So like for the Xenoblade 1 world, you had the Mechanians that were, or the Mechons that were mechanical based beings that lived on the Mechonis. So you have that interesting race. But then also with Xenoblade 2, you have the many races that were born on different Titans, along with the concept of blades, flesh eaters, blade eaters. All of those are going to come into play here, and it's going to change the power balance for both of those societies. The only thing that we can very clearly state that Takahashi has clearly maintained, there will be no references to Xenoblade Chronicles X, just because the way that I guess he's built it is that it was its own thing. It was its own continuity. And so don't worry about trying to explain how that's going to fit into things. This is only connected to Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2.
Yeah, that's correct. Xenoblade Cross was very much a like it was supposed to be a spiritual successor
Well,
to
and on
Xenoblade
top
1.
of that, it actually shows how Takahashi has learned. I've made this joke to Alex, but I haven't made it to you. Tetsuya Takahashi can be considered the Hideaki Anno of video games. Okay, where he had a problem where he wanted to tell these big grandiose stories, but then ran out of budget. And Xenoblade is actually an example where he was able to stay within budget and be able to do all the grandiose things that he wanted to do. He just had to cut some stuff out. And so elements of Xenoblade 1 that weren't in there became elements of Xenoblade 2. So at that point, like, he's been able to figure that stuff out, so I'm very happy about it. But he also has a business sense to it because, like, you like Xenoblade Chronicles actually, at least to some extent, but he's willing enough to admit that amongst the 3 games, it wasn't the most financially successful. Part of that being that it was on the Wii U and during the latter part of the Wii U's life cycle. So at that point, it wasn't really going to help there. But also the fact that Xenoblade 1 and 2 have earned tremendous popularity. And I mean tremendous popularity. Takahashi's never seen this kind of popularity since Xenogears back in the PlayStation 1 days. So, and even to an extent, Xenoblade 2 was even more popular than that.
I would say, Adam, that my love for 1 and your love for 2 will be a very awesome way for both of us to go into number 3 and and as we experience it differently, be able to
it
still
gets better, Brenton, because well, the internet has now become involved, and we have in-depth. Sorry, Alex, we keep interrupting you. I promise I'm not trying to do that, but the internet has become involved, and there's not just references to Xenoblade 1 and 2 in this. I don't know how Takahashi did it. I mean, Bandai Namco was probably easier to talk about than this, but Square Enix now, has never made reference to Xenogears in many, many years. And this game has references to both Xenosaga and Xenogears. It doesn't connect them in continuity, but it is references to them, which a lot of people are sitting there going, okay, pardon my French, but whose cock did you need to suck over at Square Enix to be able to get the rights to do that? Because he's never been able to do it. And part of that, the guess is because of Xenoblade's popularity, it has made Square Enix reconsider Xenogears. Hence why they put in a Xenogears Easter egg in World of Final Fantasy. And also, recently, in the mobile game Brave Exvius, they added Xenogears DLC, which allowed for you to have characters like Faye, Id, and Groff from Xenogears in it. And their limit breaks are actually their gears. So at that point, you have references like that now Takahashi can get away with referencing older games like Xenogears in Xenoblade 3. It's not that it's going to directly affect things, because Xenoblade is its own continuity. But to me, as a hardcore Xenogears fan who loves that game beyond, like, if I ever make a games of all time, Xenogears will be on it, if not at the top. So at that point, the fact that he's able to make these Easter egg references is bringing tears to my eyes that he can finally do this. So I'm very happy about it. Alex, we've cut you off a number of times at this point. What is your take on Xenoblade 3 and what we've mentioned with it?
You haven't really cut me off or anything, but I think it's been great to listen to your reactions, how excited you both are for this. I've not played Xenoblade 1 or 2 or any of the other Xenoblade games.
But I have made the push that we play it since then, because we recently had a birthday dinner, and I'm like, we ought to just bypass Xenosaga and go straight to Xenoblade, which he was like, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, well, personally, I would still like for us to do Xenosaga.
So would I. I just really wish they'd make a remastered trilogy of it. I really do.
Yeah, I wish too. I really wish Monolith would go back to Xenosaga already. I know maybe it's because it's partly tied up with Bandai Namco now that the companies have merged. Obviously, it was Namco back in the day, but
they own it. Monolith Soft does not.
So they do own it fully. There's no hiccups, tie-ups
And
with
that's kind of the
Bandai
reason.
Namco?
Also, Takahashi has kind of admitted, now that he's done Xenoblade or Xenosaga Episode 3, there really isn't anywhere else for the story to go. That's when he basically redid everything, or like he recreated some of those elements and put them into Xenoblade.
Yeah,
so-
I'm not necessarily looking for like a recreation, but it would be nice to have a remaster or
Oh no,
re-release
and Takahashi's been pushing for years
of the
that a trilogy remaster happen, and Bandai Namco keeps telling him no.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
damn
the
Bandai
it's the
Namco.
fucking worst. I really wish they'd do it. Pardon my French, but look, love or hate Xenosaga. I have a love-hate relationship with it too. But the bottom line is that it was actually a very lucrative franchise for Bandai Namco at that time. Because it wasn't Tekken, and Tekken was like their biggest money gainer. But I believe it was the only RPG that they had in that was fruitful. So at that point, and there's enough of a niche love for it that has come from new fans of Xenoblade that want to see things like Xenogears and see Xenosaga be brought up to current scale. So I'm kind of hoping that if Xenoblade 3 is as successful as 2, we might get that. Because now we have a whole new audience because of Xenoblade that Takahashi never had.
Absolutely. I mean, hell, Xenogears, you know, that obviously got a re-release in the PlayStation Network years ago, so I'm kind of wondering what's up with the Xenosaga trilogy, why that
It's
hasn't
actually really
been
frustrating to
re-released.
me because there are actually some PlayStation games on PlayStation Now that you can play, and Xenogears isn't one of them.
Mhm.
And that's frustrating as hell. Now, Chrono Cross wasn't one of them either, but now we know that they went down this remastered route.
Yeah.
So
There could be a financial component to this. Like, I can't
there
even
definitely
begin
is.
to imagine how expensive it is to remaster a game like that.
Well, and what made it worse is, like I said, Takahashi is the Hideaki Anno of video games. For the longest time, like and Alex can attest to this because we did a Let's Play of Xenogears. He had the same problem where he had these big grandiose plans and he would wreck the budget trying to make them to come to fruition. Because as everybody, since I'm a Xeno fan, I get asked this a lot, like if there was ever a sequel for Xenogears, because if you go all the way to the end of the credits, it says episode 5 end. And I was like, what?
So 5. What happened to the other 4?
What? And technically there was a 6th.
Mhm.
And the only way that we ever knew like the events that happened in them was because later on Xenogears Chronicle Works came out and showed the full timeline that Takahashi had envisioned, because he had hoped that he was going to get sequels. And it's not that Xenogears wasn't successful. It just wasn't as successful as some of the other games that came out around that time for Square Enix, like, say, Final Fantasy VIII and Parasite Eve. So at that point, that's why it got scrapped, is because Square Enix, or Squaresoft at the time, saw him as kind of a money waster, and on top of that, not really bringing in a whole lot of money.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah,
It's a real shame.
this is why I've never gotten Xenogears Easter eggs in anything, because they didn't want to refer back to it. Oh wait, Xenoblade's popular, now they care. Kind of thing. So that's kind of my viewpoint on this matter, is that if Xenoblade 3 brings more awareness to the Xeno series, then I don't care. Because at that point, that fuels me. Because who knows, maybe I'll get a Xenogears Remastered for Nintendo Switch and all the platforms, and I'll be ecstatic. I mean, I've been pitching to Rising Sun Reviews for years that he ought to try Xenogears. I'd love for him to be able to do it without having to use emulators. But that's probably how he'd have to do it. So I'm definitely excited about that. But let's get into some of these other ones that definitely happened. I think the next one that has to be talked about, guys, is Chrono Cross. Holy shit! The sequel that nobody wants to talk about, but technically isn't that bad, is getting remastered. And it's for everything. It's not just for Switch. It's for Steam. It's for PS4, PS5. It's for Xbox One, Xbox Series X, Series S. It's all around. Everybody gets to try it out. And if you guys have never seen the story of Chrono Cross, it actually is kind of worth it. Especially if you played, I don't know, a little game by the name of Chrono Trigger. So at that point, and not only that, but the Radical Dreamers being added into that. This was an old school text adventure that was made by the guy who made Chrono Cross. And was the original story intended until they scrapped it and they went and made Chrono Cross. Why is that important? Because it actually referred back to Chrono Trigger, which everybody loves. So the fact that this is also happening, and I have no problem in mentioning this, on my birthday! It releases on my fucking birthday! You know what I'm getting that day, right?
Naturally,
I'm
I would
enjoy the hell out of that. If I can stream it, I definitely will. But yeah, you guys' thoughts on Chrono Cross Remastered?
Alex, you go first because I did Xenoblade first.
Fair enough.
And this is actually something that we talked about with Romney as well, because the rumors were back in October last year.
Oh yeah, I remember we talked to some rumors of that. Mm-hmm.
Yep, and it came to fruition.
Yeah, unfortunately for me, I couldn't get into Cross. I guess I could try again. So
Cross is hard to get into. I'll more than happily admit that. When I first played it and beat it, I didn't like it. But then I played it again later on in my life, and I actually gained an appreciation for it. But it definitely is a complicated... And here's the thing. It's complicated in the sense that they try to connect the Chrono games, but also play into the whole concept of parallel worlds. And that F's things up in that continuity so hard. And it's so hard to follow because both worlds... Like, it's not like where one parallel world is worthless and you don't have to follow anything that's in it. Both worlds have parts that are integral to it. And so you have to not only keep track of all the time travel nonsense that happened in Chrono Trigger, you now have to keep track of two fully vibrant worlds in Chrono Cross.
Yeah.
So it's complicated as hell.
Yeah. It's a lot to keep track of, and I think it was a few years ago I even tried to because I was really curious because I never finished the game myself because I really just couldn't get into it when I tried playing it for myself. But I did remember a few years ago trying to I wanted to at least understand the whole story beyond what I'd just seen. And I really had a hard time following it. I found a YouTube video that tried to break down the whole story of Cross and its connection to Chrono Trigger.
Yep.
Well-made video. I wish I could remember the YouTuber who made it now so I could give the proper credit. I can't.
Corrupt?
It could be. I really don't remember.
I'll send you his video because I actually applaud him. He did a great job working with the Chrono fandom websites to be able to make it work.
Yeah.
And it's actually really well done.
Yeah, I remember watching the video that tried to at least break down the whole story and how it relates, how everything connects, and
because it does. And the connection was very weird because Trigger didn't even refer to Cross as a sequel until the DS version that actually created hooks that would connect to Cross.
Right. And having since played it on DS, I kind of see oh yeah, they must be doing this to set up for Cross later. Interesting.
Yep.
So yeah. So I don't know, maybe I could try getting into it again. Otherwise, maybe we'll just see how the remaster turns out. I guess I'm happy for the Chrono Cross fans out there. I know they're out there.
Yes, they are. I'm happy for them as well. But I will also say that this is probably a test. And some people might get mad at me for saying this, but it might be a test to see whether or not the Chrono series has an active enough fandom to maybe consider either doing a remake of Chrono Trigger, which is what people have demanded for years, is a viable remaster of Chrono Trigger for modern consoles, or to continue the Chrono series. And that one's less likely, but I would love a remake of Chrono Trigger. I mean, after I got the remake of Secret of Mana back a couple of years ago, which Brent had actually played with me, I wanted that. I wanted a remastering of Chrono Trigger, and I really hope that this kind of opens the door for that to happen. Brinton, what's your take on this? Are you a Chrono fan? Do you know what Chrono Cross is? Are you going to pick it up?
Aware of the franchise and of the series, but I've never played either Trigger or Cross.
Okay. So at that point, does this encourage you to go out and try it?
It does encourage me to go out and try it. Now, financially, will I have a little extra spending money to do it is the next question, which I will have to...
Question.
Yeah, I'll have to cross that bridge when I arrive to it. And it also kind of depends on what else...
See, good
if I just
good
wanna
years for video games are hard on the wallet. They really are.
No, they really are. I'm just gonna state this now because it's probably going to be stated for like the next 10 months of like shows that I'm going to be a part of. I'm being very selective with what I'm purchasing this year. I no longer live in a dual income household, and so I need to be extraordinarily wise about what games I want to play, especially since I have so many on my backlog I can enjoy. Yeah. So, and I mean, again, these are games that are not even a year old yet that I still have to enjoy.
Yeah. No,
so
and I totally get that too.
When it comes down to... So, I mean, ultimately, it's like, do I want to play the new Ratchet and Clank that I have way more like interest in, or Chrono Cross, which would very much be a first-time experience that I know nothing about? I'm going to lean a little bit more to Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, no. And I totally get that. I mean, like, you and I have had conversations about this. My backlog is probably bigger than yours, just from like Super Nintendo games I never had access to. But that's one of the benefits that I've had in recent years, where I have just... I don't want to say I've completely given up on AAA gaming. I haven't entirely done that. But I have definitely said that, you know what, if you're not doing it for me, and indie gaming is, or I can go back to my backlog, I'm going to do it. Because why not? Like, I could easily... I don't have to... I love getting this on YouTube and even on RSS occasionally. It's like, no, the only way to be able to do this is to play the newer games and play them as fast as the games journalists are. Really?
Yeah, no, that's not viable.
No.
That's that's not viable at all.
First of all,
and the
they don't give enough credit to the games that they're playing, because they're playing them for a short amount of time. And then maybe you'll get like a story so far, and then they'll go finish it. Most of the time, they're like, okay, 10 hours, move on to the next game. And so I don't like doing that, because games deserve a lot more credit than that. But also, do you know how many games are in the NES library that I've never played? It's huge. And if the
NES was like before my time. My time was Nintendo 64 and PlayStation 1 moving forward. So those are like, that's a huge library of games that I just like know nothing about, period.
But here's the thing is, okay, so you're a child of the N64. How much of the library how much of the library have you played? Because
of the N64,
it's like 20%.
Not very much, because most of it was played when they were emulating games onto discs for GameCube.
Yep.
Or I played at friends' houses, because I had a PlayStation while everybody else had Nintendo. And then as I grew up, I had Nintendo while everybody had Xbox. So I never won. I could never win.
No. But the reason I bring that up is, like, you know, the average hardcore gamer of any console usually is playing at minimum 20% of the overall library. And in some cases, maybe a little bit more than that. But let's just see for the sake of argument. I'm looking up right now. So the Nintendo 64, this is actually pretty low. There's 393 games that came out for that library. Now think in your head, both of you, because you're both Nintendo 64 kids, how much of that library have you actually played?
Not a lot.
Uh-huh.
I played probably 3 games.
So at that point, let me blow your mind even further, Brinton. The Super Nintendo had 1,757 games that came out for the United States.
Wow.
I can guarantee you I have played maybe 100, but not 200. I could spend the rest of my life playing Super Nintendo games I've never played.
Oh, easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
So at that point, why should I spend money on AAA when AAA isn't even willing enough to cater to me? That's the thing.
Well, that's even like a thing that I want to say in regards to being very selective, because even a month ago I was saying I'm so excited for Spoken, yet it is such an ambitious game that I am genuinely worried, and so it's on my wish list.
Mhm.
It's something like I'll read reviews, maybe I'll watch some gameplay, and I already know that I'm not going to buy it day one.
Yeah. This is definitely one of those things where, like, yeah, a lot of people might get mad at me because I'm willing to pay for a remaster than pay for anything new that's coming out. But that's where I want to go. Like nostalgia is a big thing for me now, because I've been playing games since the NES days. So at that point, I don't have to buy anything Rockstar ever. But I could totally invest into old school Super Nintendo games that I've never played before. And I'm totally on board with that. So we've covered these. The other one that I really quick want to go over, because people have asked me directly if I was excited about Front Mission 1 and 2. I don't think I've actually played them. I know I've played the Armored Core games, but I'm not sure about Front Mission, because I was trying to think as to whether or not they were available near me. I don't think they were. So I'm excited for these games, because any mecha game I'll try out. But I don't have any experience towards them, so I'm sorry to the audience that expected that I did. I saw Front Mission, and I think I vaguely remember hearing the name, but I don't ever remember it being available at like my local Blockbuster or at my local Toys R Us. So at that point, never tried them. For me, and just to kind of wrap this up, let's, because we could easily go over this all day, but we've already put like an hour towards it. What of this direct got you guys excited? I have no problem saying Xenoblade 3 obviously got me very excited. Mario Kart got me very excited, although a little worried, but now Brinton's kind of alleviated that. And I hate to say this, Alex, but you're going to be doing these courses right along with me because your nieces demand it.
Right.
Because that's going to be the way it goes. I will say I am interested in the Fire Emblem Warriors 2. I want to try that out because any Musou games I'm willing to try. Chrono Cross Remaster, obviously, I'm excited for. Triangle Strategy, I'm excited for. But the biggest thing that I walked away with is the 2 games that are Japanese exclusive franchises that are being brought to the States for the first time. Specifically, Live Alive and Getsu Fumiden. I want to try these. I haven't tried Getsu Fumiden yet, but I want to try both of them because these are, again, franchises that were never brought here. This is just as cool for like a Resident Evil fan if they ever brought Mystery House here, which is basically the game that kind of inspired the formula of Resident Evil. So if Mystery House ever came here, that would be amazing to a lot of Resident Evil fans. And that's kind of my viewpoint on it right now. There was a lot to be excited for in that one, but those are the ones that hit me. Brinton, what were you excited from these announcements?
So like we've already we went into a giant deep conversation about it. Xenoblade 3.
Yes.
I'm really looking forward to playing it alongside you and being able to share our experiences and our takeaways from it. I love Warriors games. I never played the Fire Emblem Warriors 1. I actually forgot that was a thing. So when Three Hopes was announced, I was like, oh, I watched my ex play Three Houses and I really enjoyed that. I'm looking forward to playing the Three Hopes now. Yeah. That is a for sure purchase come June. And then lastly, the Mario Kart, which, if you ask my boyfriend, I wouldn't stop talking about it the entire weekend that I was down at his place after the Nintendo Direct. So, and he's actually watching right now, so he's probably just laughing and thinking to himself, "Yep, he
Well,
definitely would not stop talking about it."
fun story about this, and we'll get into Alex's. So I was not able to watch this live because I was busy taking my kids to therapy at the time. Andrea decided that she was going to watch it because she's never been able to watch a Nintendo Direct live. So she like, you know what? I'm going to do it just to say that I have. And she did it, and she was more excited for me than anything else, except she thought that I would be talking endlessly about Xenoblade 3. And at that time, like, I got announcements, like, given to me via text. And so Xenoblade 3 hadn't even come up. I knew that it was there, but I didn't know anything about the trailer. I couldn't watch the trailer. I was stuck in a reception office, and so if I'm going to watch this thing, I'm going to put it up on a big screen. I'm not going to watch it on a phone. And so she got mad at me a little bit because I was talking about Chrono Cross, and I was talking about Mario Kart, because those were the details that I was able to get at that time. And to me, that was amazing. And then I saw the Xenoblade 3 trailer and went, and here's the thing, my initial reaction to Xenoblade 3 wasn't great because I was more confused than anything. Because I saw references to both worlds, and I just, the thing that made me more excited about it is when the internet went and discovered everything. And so when I got to see trailer analysis videos, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's from Xenogears. Oh my gosh, that's from Xenosaga. Holy crap, that's Cosmos! And that's what got me excited about Xenoblade 3, because so much of it looked familiar, but so much of it didn't look familiar. And so it was kind of hard to tell where they were going, because Takahashi's weird like that. He doesn't like giving us a straightforward answer. He likes giving you vague. He definitely does. Alex, what about you? What did you walk away excited from this Nintendo Direct?
I don't know if anything really made me particularly excited, but interested for sure. I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I didn't follow the Direct that closely anyway, but certainly Radical Dreamers has piqued my interest. I've been kind of interested in that myself, just to kind of see, how this sows the seeds of Chrono Cross.
Mm-hmm. It even has a returning character from Chrono Trigger in it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's definitely something to look forward to. And I'm not saying that there's anything really bad in the Direct. These are just the things that I kind of specifically targeted. So with that, we've covered the positive. We've covered this Direct. It was awesome, and we can't wait until summer when we get, hopefully, a Breath of the Wild completely themed actual Nintendo Direct on this. But actually, I wouldn't mind if they also put a focus on Xenoblade 3, just to showcase some more of that as well, because I'm wondering like how much of the gameplay is going to be integrated between the two of them, because I really like the mechanic of blades. The mechanic of blades was very similar to Gears to me.
Oh yeah, no, that was one of the more annoying aspects of Xenoblade 2 for me, which again is funny because everything that I everything that I had a complaint about, you were like, oh, well, this is my positive outlook, and I was like, when did we switch places?
Well, but here's the thing is like, and this throws people off on YouTube a lot, is I've played craptastic gameplay for a good story. I've done it. And the example that I will give to people, Xenosaga Episode 2. It is the worst gameplay designed in all of the Xeno series, but the story was compelling enough that I was willing to forgive it, because the story was worth it, and I'm sure that I will, if they remaster it or whatever, we will have to go through that game, and Alex will have to get used to me dropping F-bombs left and right, because it's a broken system. It really is. But Takahashi, story's been his forte, not gameplay. But now with Xenoblade, he has a better team to be able to help him visualize what he wants. And so I can definitely say, like, there's a difference between, like, the Bandai Namco days and the Nintendo days. So
I've sat through some pretty craptacular gameplay just for the story Skyward Sword cough.
And HD didn't make it any better, now did it?
I haven't played HD yet.
Oh, child.
I heard the improvements were good.
They're okay.
I will formulate my opinion when I actually play it. But I'm too busy getting distracted in photo mode on Horizon Forbidden West that I think it's probably going to be a few years before I even touch Skyward Sword.
Oh, that's fine, because Andrea actually personally irritated me because I wanted to play more Forbidden West this week, or not this weekend, but the following weekend. And she was more like, we need to finish some of our backlog for the streams before we get back to Forbidden West. I'm like, damn you! Damn you! So, there you go. So let's go ahead and get into the bad news that happened with Nintendo. And this is news that has not gone over well for some people. Although it was expected. So, Nintendo has announced that they're going to be revamping their online store, while also working on things like My Nintendo Physical Rewards and things like that. So a lot of people have been begging for this, like having the online store revamped and be able to work a lot better than it currently does. However, in order to be able to do the new, you have to get rid of the old. And the Switch Online Store currently is also tethered to the Wii U and 3DS eShops. So in order for these revamps to happen, what some have loved for so long are going to have to go away. So Nintendo announced that, in fact, not 24 hours after announcing the demise of the ability to purchase 3DS and Wii U games physically and digitally, but they also announced that the 3DS and Wii U eShops will be ending, and that includes the Virtual Console stores. So, in March 2023, you will no longer be able to purchase Wii U games digitally, or any of the indie games that were available on that shop, because it will no longer exist. Plus, all of the... See, a lot of people have a complaint with the way that Nintendo Switch Online has worked with retro game releases. And part of it was because they loved how the Wii U's version went, and now that's not going to be available anymore. Which includes the fact that we haven't even seen Nintendo Switch Online touch Game Boy Advance, not 3DS, DS. We haven't seen them touch N64 really that much. And the Wii U eShop also had Wii games on it. So at that point, this is all going away. Plus, on 3DS, there were games that were exclusive to that will no longer be available. So, for example, one of the things that hurts me, thankfully I have it on 3DS, is the 2 sequels to Ace Attorney that were digital purchases. They're not available anywhere else. And they will go away. I hope that they will be re-released to Steam and other places, but you can't get them anywhere else. So that is definitely something that has to be considered, and has gotten a lot of people very, very mad at them, because they're just going to go away, and they're not going to be able to be purchasable anymore, and there's no sign that Nintendo is just going to bring them back to Nintendo Switch Online, because of how slow they've been in implementing this new Virtual Console. So at that point, I can understand why people are frustrated by this, but before I get into my opinion, Brenton, Alex, what do you guys have to add?
Damned if you do, damned if you don't. That's kind of what all this is saying to me. We want better. Okay, well, in order for us to do this, we need to implement this. Well, no, we don't want that. Okay, so literally we can't do anything.
I don't like how it's being implemented, but one thing I will compliment it is that they gave people a year. A year to go and purchase what they want before it goes away. So I will give them that credit. So if there are any games that I haven't gotten on it yet that maybe I haven't had access to or anything like that, you know, me and Andrea have already decided, okay, we're going to set aside a weekend at some point and we're going to figure out what we want from that, and we will just bunch up our money and we'll get it all.
I have already kind of done that myself.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the games that did well on Wii U that I enjoyed,
Yep,
have so far been ported over to Switch, or I own the physical copy of the game that I want. Because
Yeah.
currently, right now, the only way that I can replay my favorite game is on Wii U, which I'm very grateful I was able to get back from my ex-husband. In terms of 3DS, most of the games that I liked playing on 3DS were just simply Pokemon or Animal Crossing, which
Which more than
I've
likely you
enjoyed.
have physical copies.
Yes, I have physical copies or the newer games or installments of Animal Crossing and Pokemon that I've been enjoying, such as Sword and Shield, Arceus, um, New Horizons for Animal Crossing. I either own digital or physical copies of those games. So
Yeah.
really, for me, what I want to play on Wii U, I either have physically again on the Switch, and I'm set. For my 3DS, I have preferred the newer installments of the franchises that I've just mentioned for my Switch. I haven't even touched my 3DS since like Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, which
Okay.
was like 2019, I think. So we're going on 2, possibly 3 years that I haven't even looked at my 3DS.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I haven't gotten rid of it is because I have a digital version of Happy Home Designer that I really, really, really enjoy going back to every once in a while, even though I have Happy Island Designer or whatever they called it for New Leaf on my Switch that I could easily play as well.
Yeah.
I have a lot of nostalgia tied to my 3DS. I don't want to get rid of it. So I did my research. I looked at everything I wanted to purchase, and in the end, I was like, okay, when it closes down in a year, I'm fine.
Yep. This is one of the things that, again, I will compliment them for. They announced that they were going to have to do it, which was going to have to suck, and they knew that they were going to get backlash for it, but at least they said, you have a year, 365 days. You have time to be able to go and get what you don't have yet. And then all you do is you make your Wii U's or your 3DS's into storage devices for these things. And that's totally fine. Because in a lot of cases, when it comes to some of the digitally bought games that exist on the Wii U, I either have physical versions of them for Wii U anyway, or they got brought over to the Switch. So at that point, either way. So like, for example, I have Shovel Knight on Wii U. I don't need Shovel Knight on Wii U. Why? Because I have Shovel Knight on Switch. And I unapologetically bought it again. I do not feel bad in the slightest because Shovel Knight is fucking awesome. So at that point,
no,
I can
Adam,
easily...
you shouldn't apologize.
Go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say you shouldn't apologize for rebuying games because I've rebought Control 5 times.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with doing some of that stuff. I mean, for crying out loud, I have Stardew Valley on like 4 consoles. And I unapologetically do. It's weirdly addictive when I'm having a bad week or whatever. So at that point, like, what I'm basically saying is now I can get rid of my Wii U version of Shovel Knight and free up space for something that I haven't tried before, like say the DS Zeldas. I've never tried those. So at that point, we can put those on and try them out. Or I think Metroid Prime Hunters is on there. I've never played Prime Hunters, so I could.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
There's only a couple of handheld Zeldas that I've actually liked. Phantom Hourglass was pretty good. I really enjoyed Diminish Cap, which you can, for anybody who's watching, you can watch my Let's Play of it that I did years
Minish
ago.
Cap is amazing, and anybody who says otherwise can...
Oh, yeah, Minish Cap was a lot of fun. I'm really, like, just as a side quick tangent, I really hope they bring Minish Cap to Switch the same way they did with Link's Awakening.
Yes,
I will buy that up.
See, that's been the two things that they've really wanted that company to take on, is either to bring Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages in that format, which would be great because a lot of people have never played those games. Or they do the Minish Cap, and the Minish Cap I think is the way to go because it's gorgeous. Basically remaking it in that Link's Awakening style would only benefit it. It wouldn't hurt it.
Oh no, 100%. But to get things back on track, because I don't want to tangent too hard on that, you're making because I could literally sit here for the next 40 minutes and talk about that easy alone. But that's not what we're talking about right now. What we're talking about right now, I super love what you're saying, Adam, and I completely agree with you because it is just being completely mindful of the fact of this game I own on other platforms that I would rather play it on.
Yep.
So now I can take it off my Wii U and add in games that I have not had an opportunity to play because space is available.
Yeah.
Maybe I should reevaluate that for actually my Wii U's in storage right now.
Yeah.
And I have no intention of taking it. No, I have a year. I will do it in the far
in here. I don't even know where. So.
Yeah, mine's in a box in storage outside in sub-zero temperature.
Well,
so I'm not even sure it's going to work after this.
That's better than Alex, who bought a Wii U for Breath of the Wild and then eventually got rid of it so he could have Breath of the Wild on the Switch. So, Alex, how does this affect you?
Well,
he is the epitome of disgruntled Wii U owner, just because he got rid of his Wii U so he could get a Switch.
I completely forgot about that because I bought my Wii U just to play Wind Waker HD, and I swear to God, if that Wii U froze to death, I will be the saddest gay man on the face of the planet.
Well, they still need to remake that for Switch. They do.
100%.
I mean, for crying out loud,
because then that would be the third time I bought it again.
I wanted to try Twilight Princess HD because I played Twilight Princess on Wii, and was because of the waggle mechanics, I very much didn't like it, and everybody's told me do HD because it's based off the GameCube version, and that was much more enjoyable. And so at that point,
GameCube version was great.
This is more encouragement for me to go and do that. But hey, Nintendo, before Breath of the Wild 2 hits, maybe consider re-releasing those because they were very successful on the Wii U.
Anyway, Alex, we this was a hardcore interruption. We're done talking.
Okay. I think that I'm really disappointed by this. Even though it's not like I own a ton of games right now or anything, even on my Switch. I own a fair few, but it's just what I hate about seeing where the industry as a whole is going. It's like everything's just got to become the next Netflix now. It's like, no, I just can't go to a store and buy a game when I want. No, I have to be subscribed to a service and hope that it comes into the rotation and hope that it doesn't go away from there.
Well, what's even better about this is, we talked about this in the last roundtable with Rising Sun Reviews, and he made a good point in this regard, is the more that they do stuff like this, the more they push people towards the emulation community. Because at that point, because you're not going to do anything with these games. I'm thoroughly convinced, if Virtual Console was the first thing on Nintendo's mind, we would have so many games on the NES and SNES versions. But even then, the library that we have is sparse compared to what the Wii U eShop was. So at that point, I've just kind of looked at that as, okay, Nintendo, you can get mad about that all you want, but you continue to show your fandom that you're not interested in their nostalgia, you're interested in their new hotness, okay? So at that point, you can't complain when they go onto a Wii emulator to go play something like Metroid Other M or Metroid Prime 3. You can't, because you brought them to it. Unless you bring these games to into the current console. And you also consider whether or not to have them cheaper.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I bought Skyward Sword HD, and I'm going to tell you right here and now, there was a reason people complained about the $60 price tag, and it was warranted. Because you didn't really change that much. I mean, the sword mechanic is going to work as best as it's going to work in that game. You didn't change much else other than that. And so, at that point, saying that a $60 price tag is worth it, I wasn't arguing with you before. I certainly as hell am arguing with you on that now.
Wait, you paid $60 for yours?
That's what it was. 60
I got.
bucks.
I got it for $50.
Did you buy it brand new?
Yes.
So did you pay $49.99 or $59.99?
I paid $49.99.
Okay, well, maybe I've got the price tag wrong, but at the same time, like, it still shouldn't have been 50. It should have been like 30.
Well, I would argue maybe $40. But I haven't.
I'm okay with $10 cheaper.
I haven't played. I haven't played it yet. I know when Wind Waker HD came out, they made some pretty significant changes to like the collect the Triforce shards
and
that
was
of the story. Oh, it was beautiful because I was dreading it, and then when I realized what they did, I couldn't have been happier.
But then when it came to Twilight Princess HD, not a whole lot was brought in. They changed the aspect ratios and a lot of that other stuff, but it was the GameCube version. So at that point, they basically brought in an older version to be able to play it, and some people have argued that it wasn't worth $50. And I would technically agree. I think it could have been $10 cheaper, and it would have been worthwhile.
Then they added in Miiverse stamp that you can't even use anymore.
Uh-huh.
They were great.
Those were not a selling point, because eventually they're worthless. Because as long as your online networking isn't going to work, then that's not a selling point to me. That's about as worthwhile to me as the stickers in Super Mario 3D World that are now worthless unless you have a Switch. Like, some people actually got mad because I guess they didn't bring every sticker over from 3D World, and they added new ones in this one, but you couldn't get the old ones. So at that point...
I didn't even notice.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where that's a nice little aesthetic, but it's not enough to justify an additional price tag to it. What you have to add to me on that one is, like, in the case of Skyward Sword, which I don't think is in Twilight Princess, like boss rush mode. Okay? That adds value to me. But not what they added to Skyward Sword. Or not to Twilight Princess HD. For the most part, gameplay-wise, all they added was it was a little bit easier to get the magic armor, and the magic armor ain't worth it. So, at that point, I would say that Wind Waker HD had way more added to it.
Oh no, it definitely felt like an entirely different game, which made me love my experience of it again for like the umpteenth time that I had played it at that point. I think a really good note to point to like possibly wrap up this particular part of the conversation is that, like, it's not just Nintendo that has their shortcomings and stuff like this. I know for quite some time, and being a subscriber to PlayStation Plus, their free games and like some of the perks that you get with PlayStation Plus have been lacking over the course of the last several years from what I've read. And I know that like Xbox Game Pass and and all their different tiered levels of the Game Pass have been pretty spotty here and there, some at times as well, because again, I used to subscribe to that, or rather my ex-husband did. And so ultimately it's you can't cater to everybody.
No, you can't.
Which is super, super unfortunate. And I do completely understand that the way Nintendo has to go about closing down the 3DS eShop and the Nintendo Wii U eShop is super unfortunate. And yes, 100% everybody has a valid reason to be upset by what is happening. However, I think these people also need to understand that in order for bigger and better and new things to be implemented and to be done per fan request, per consumer request, there are going to have to be sacrifices to be made in order for those requests to be done. Not everybody, and like, this is kind of a super weird example, but not everybody can be the development team of Final Fantasy XIV, where fans are like, give us this, give us that. And the team is like, we will make it happen. Understand this is going to take time. And then they make it happen. Even some of the most like minuscule of requests. Not everybody can do that. It's not always viable.
I agree with you on this regard. But it's definitely one of those things where I kind of really wish that some of these console developers would stop getting a bug up their ass about games that are 5, 10, 20 plus years old that are not making money for them in the slightest. The only ones that you can even make any argument about is maybe the Nintendo Switch Online ones or the ones that aren't on PlayStation Plus, but they're not making any money for these companies anymore. And yet, if somebody tries to do a Let's Play of them or try to make a mod for them or anything like that, they immediately get shot down by their legal departments because, Nintendo just has to control everything. And so at that point, I kind of wish that Microsoft, Sony, as well as Nintendo would all kind of realize, there is a nostalgia market, and maybe this doesn't harm us as much as we think it does, that people have access to a ROM of NES Barbie. Like, that doesn't really affect us.
Really? Yeah, for sure.
A ROM of NES.
I'm sorry, the AVGN episode came to my mind. So
I still want to, oh my gosh, I still want to play that with you now, Adam. That would be so much. That would just be so much random.
NES Barbie.
Oh god.
That would be the most chaotic. It's happening. Somebody in the comments say something. Make this happen. Convince him.
Better example. Movie tie-in games. So, for example, the Indiana Jones trilogy that was made on Super NES. Well, Indiana Jones, yes, it has an Indy 5 coming out, but there hasn't really been much money to be made from the Indiana Jones trilogy recently. Even when Disney pulls the trilogy out of the vault, they make very little out of it. And so at that point, is it really hurting you, Disney, that somebody is playing a ROM of a game that you technically were not even remotely involved with, and the company that made it is now defunct and has not been able to renew their IP to that game, and so now it's public domain? Well, Disney's butthurt about stuff like that, and so they try to bring it back in. But my argument is, it really doesn't affect you because you're not going to do shit with it. Mm-hmm. Perfect example for me, I love The Secret of Monkey Island. It is now owned by Disney because they own LucasArts. They aren't going to do jack shit with it. And I know people will bring up, oh, there's a rumor of a cartoon. It's never happening. And so at that point, would I like to be able to see, maybe if people were able to get a ROM of those games, they did a Let's Play for them, and then they get hammered by Disney? It's like, what the fuck? It doesn't matter. You're not getting any money off of original Secret of Monkey Island. You might be getting money from the Steam sales for Secret of Monkey Island Special Edition, but this is not affecting you. So just let them do their thing. If that's what they want to go do, it's not hurting you, kind of thing. And so a lot of people will remember my previous statements on it, but I've kind of changed my mind over time with a lot of this stuff. If they make it available, then great. If they don't, that's fine. But it's not hurting you. In a lot of cases, they're not replicating these things to spite you. They are basically just making it available so that others can enjoy it. And they're not getting a dime off of it. And if anybody did get a dime off of it, well, then maybe you'd have a legal claim. But I can already tell you the one site that you got down, there was no money there. So that being said, yes, let's go ahead and move on here because we actually do have a number of other stories. And that's why this podcast will probably be a lot bigger when we do the monthly ones. So this one I technically covered on my own, but enough people got mad at my coverage for it because apparently I don't know what I'm talking about, even though I talked about a similar story on this one in January. So let's go ahead and get into this. Sony buys Bungie for $3.6 billion. Apparently, that's the end of the console wars, and Sony's dead. Thoughts?
Well, what I found funny is that that had happened a couple of days after we had talked about Microsoft.
Yep.
And so I just had a good cheery laugh about it. My favorite comment that I read off of Twitter was I love how the game Bungie made that is owned by Microsoft is now the same company working for Sony.
I mean, it's hilarious.
It is ironic.
It is.
It's extremely ironic, and I love every little bit of it. The only I've played Halo, I've played Destiny. Honestly, I haven't Bungie's great. I think they have really good storytelling,
Yeah.
and the gameplay doesn't do it for me, at all. So I think it would be interesting to see what comes from this game developer backed by Sony assistant to see if they make something that has better gameplay, and time will tell. I completely forgot, who did Microsoft buy out again that we were talking about?
Activision Blizzard, and they've also bought out Bethesda.
Okay, I knew
So
about
this
Bethesda.
is why they're saying
it
that
was,
the console war is won for Microsoft, because they bought these huge companies, and I'll get into this in a second, but yeah, there's debate on whether or not that was a lucrative purchase for Microsoft, and I made that clear last month, just as much as I made my opinion clear of Sony, but I'll get to that in a minute. Alex, really quick before I do my thing, do you want to chime in on this? Is it the end of the console war? Has Sony lost?
I mean, they just got Bungie. How would they have lost already?
Well, because apparently they didn't get they only spent $3.6 billion. Microsoft bought Bethesda, and Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard, so obviously they have the more companies.
I mean,
okay, well, no. No.
I mean, that's not how acquisitions and mergers work, everybody, but...
No. And technically, the Activision Blizzard thing hasn't been approved yet.
Yeah,
So.
It still has to go through congressional approval or just whatever. But, even then, we don't know how Microsoft is going to reorganize Activision Blizzard, right? We don't know what departments... Because I'm sure even within Activision and Blizzard, there's a lot of little sub-departments, little sub-branches, How many of those are going to get, trimmed down for redundancy?
Teams are going to die, bottom line,
Yeah.
because they're going to be considered as not worthwhile, and those employees are going to get redirected.
You're going to see a lot of... Once this acquisition is finalized, once everything's all settled, once the money's paid, and once Microsoft starts getting in there, a lot of things are going to start changing. You're going to see a lot of reorganization. You're going to see a lot of restructuring. You're going to see layoffs, unfortunately. And now right? I'm sure there'll be some of that with Bungie, but I think the difference is with Bungie, it's a lot more of a singular entity.
I
of
would
a
make
company.
the argument that some of that has already happened.
I'm sure it has, yeah. It's like Activision, when you think of Activision and Blizzard, that's two very big developers/publishers right there.
Yep.
With a lot of... So there's a lot more for Microsoft to sift through. So it's a lot of it's a really kind of different acquisition altogether with Sony's acquiring of Bungie.
So
right? It's more like acquiring one game studio versus one studio/major publisher.
I was also going to say that Microsoft is picking up a lot of crap that has been going on with Blizzard, specifically. Just the whole lawsuit, that entire gigantic mess of a scandal right now.
Oh, and you don't think Bethesda didn't have lawsuits? They both did.
Oh yeah. I'm happy for Microsoft, whoever thought, in their board meetings, kudos to the person who was able to convince the head of the board to be like, yeah, let's take on some of the most complicated companies and buy them out.
Well, that was Uncle Phil. Uncle Phil pitched the purchase of both those companies.
Hey, I'm not saying this sarcastically, genuinely good for him, because that is a headache I personally would never want to even remotely approach. So then we look at Sony acquiring Bungie, and as far as I'm concerned, Bungie just does what Bungie does. They make games. There's no big scandals. There's no gigantic messes. There may be a disgruntled player because they're not satisfied with their Destiny 2 expansion, and then they move on with the rest of their life. And life continues to flow freely and nicely for Sony, while Microsoft now has to go clean up probably one of the bigger messes that I've seen in the gaming industry in the last 5 years. Again, this is a headache I would never, ever, ever, ever wish upon myself.
Yeah.
So again, I'm gonna have to cover some old ground, but I will cover it as best as I possibly can. Here was my argument with Bethesda and with my Activision Blizzard. What company is Microsoft getting? Are they getting Bethesda in their heyday? And Bethesda did have a heyday. Okay, are they getting that? Or are they getting Bethesda after a number of controversies where a lot of those key developers have left and gone on to do other things?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something to consider. Are they getting... See, I can't say when Bethesda's heyday was because I've never been a Bethesda fan. But I can say for Blizzard, okay, heyday was probably 2000 when a little game called Diablo 2 hit. And they were able to gain a lot of money, and then 2 years later, they got Warcraft 3, and that was a lot of money, and then World of Warcraft happened, and that was even a lot more money. Are you getting that, Blizzard? Or are you getting current Blizzard with all of the legal baggage? And a bunch of games that were successful that are now not as successful?
Well, I mean, just from my declaration that I just made a couple of minutes ago, they're getting the Blizzard that is full of scandals, possible sex crimes, and nothing at all that shows that games are being worked on.
Yes. So now that I've brought that history into effect, because it will play into how that goes with Microsoft and also how Microsoft handles them. Which, you know what? I'm going to give some credit to Uncle Phil. Uncle Phil has handled Bethesda fairly well. In fact, we're going to talk about that later on. Bethesda has been put under the iron boot of Uncle Phil, and Todd Howard can't do half the shit he wants. Which is what should happen!
Well, I mean, somebody definitely need to put a muzzle and, like, bridle that man, like, super hardcore.
No, he needs to be demoted. He isn't the visionary Bethesda made him out to be, or the games industry made him out to be. He needs somebody above him, because he's gotten too much ego. And that's what Uncle Phil did. And Uncle Phil decided, because originally Todd Howard wanted to be on every team that was working on Starfield, Elder Scrolls 6, and all that. And Phil Spencer looked at him and went, no. Either you're on Starfield or you're on Elder Scrolls 6, you got to pick one. Because Phil Spencer looked at that and went, well, here's the thing. If you're spread too thin, these games will suffer. So, here's the history of Bungie. Bungie, and I'm not going to go over the whole history because you could find videos on it, but let's go back as far as their Microsoft purchase. They were purchased for a little game by the name of Halo, which then became a major seller for their Xbox console. So much so that Bungie was then tasked with creating Halo 2, Halo 3. I believe they were part of both ODST and Reach, and that eventually the mantle was handed over to 343 Studios, who has made Halo games that the Halo audience hasn't really cared about in terms of story, more in terms of whether or not they can get their multiplayer right. From what I understand, Halo Infinite is the only one that has been able to properly execute that. So, that being said, where did Bungie go? Bungie went and developed a little game called Destiny, because they were later on acquired by Activision.
Oh, yeah.
Activision owned Bungie when they were creating the assets for the original Destiny. And funniest thing, we found out later that Destiny could have been a whole lot better when it was being reviewed, but Activision put the biggest fucking monkey wrench in it and made them go out of their way to make the lore and all of the things that people wanted out of Destiny horribly difficult to be able to get your hands on. Not only that, they were the ones that hired Peter Dinklage to be able to be the voice of the little AI that follows you around. That was expensive, wasn't it? They eventually had to get rid of that and in turn get Nolan North to come in and do the voiceover for cheaper. Activision mishandled Bungie during Destiny 1. and a little bit of Destiny 2. So much so that Bungie split from Activision. Split from Activision in order to eventually earn back some trust with the fans. See, you remember that little game called Anthem? Destiny was Anthem before Anthem, because they lost a lot of faith from the fan base on how much they were screwing the pooch on their new IP. So Bungie had to separate themselves from Activision to fix the shit Activision broke. And it's taken them years to be able to do that, mind you. It took them well into Destiny 2 to fix it. I don't think they actually admitted that it was officially fixed until 1 or 2 expansions into Destiny 2, that they had fixed the damage that Activision had wrought with them.
Yep, I am recalling all of this information now.
So at
I
that
had a chance
point,
to...
the thing that Alex was referring to, they technically have already gone through that because they have fixed all the shit that Activision did with them, and they've earned back a lot of credibility with their audience. So much so that they brought back older fans into Destiny 2. So at that point, I would actually make the argument that in Sony's eyes, this is a much better company to purchase than Activision Blizzard currently is for Microsoft, and for cheaper. In reality, boys and girls, Sony made the better decision business-wise. Does it mean the console wars are over? Hell no! Acquiring a company does not define that. What defines it is what you do with the company.
Mm-hmm.
So, the big question here is going to be, what happens to Bungie now that Sony has acquired them? Well, you have a company that knows how to make FPSs. Absolutely knows how to make them. And they have a team that is able to do its absolute best in Destiny 2's development team. So, how does that go in Sony's favor? Well, Sony has defunct FPS properties that haven't had anything done with them in years. Wouldn't it be funny if we took something like, I don't know, Killzone and handed it over to Bungie? Killzone hasn't been around since the beginning of the PlayStation 4. It was a launch title. Didn't do very well, but it was being made by a smaller team in Guerrilla Games because Guerrilla was busy on a little game that, I don't know, you might have heard of called Horizon Zero Dawn. So at that point, Bungie can come in and, I don't know, take Resistance Fall of Man and recreate it in PS5 form and can make it just as good as Destiny 2 or even Halo. This is, in potential, going to be a much better purchase for Sony and for cheaper than Microsoft has with Bethesda and potentially Activision Blizzard. So at that point, if you think that the console wars are over, you ain't seen shit yet. Because we haven't seen what any of these companies are going to be able to do for any of their companies. Not yet. Starfield isn't even out yet. That's the first game that is going to define the Bethesda-Microsoft relationship. And guess what? If it's just as broken as any other Bethesda game, nothing's changed. Same
When was
shit,
that game even
different
revealed
brand.
again?
What was that?
There's my cursor. Oh, I'm just gonna ask Lore to Google when Starfield was revealed.
Starfield was revealed officially revealed, it was last year. It was teased the year before that.
2020?
2020. So 2021 is when we got an official reveal of Starfield. But that was also when we got announced. And remember, people said this wasn't going to happen, Alex. It was never going to happen. Bethesda was going to be able to maintain their multi-platform stuff. Oh, wait. Starfield is Xbox exclusive. Almost like I called that one.
It's fine.
Oh.
Maybe I know what I'm talking about. I don't know. Maybe you guys see differently. Maybe I'm just a crackpot. Maybe I'm just the Alex Jones of video games. I don't know.
It's still
Oh,
too
well,
early to say, I think.
I mean, Adam, everything that you just said was just so eloquently stated and like very well thought out and analytical. I mean, there are just going to be people who obviously
Or
are
it
going to
could be that a bunch of people have not seen me call a lot of major events in the gaming industry because they didn't see me actually pull out the Dragon Ball Z abridged quote from Cooler, basically saying, well, I wish someone would answer that phone, Monsieur Cooler, because I fucking called it!
I mean, Adam, people are going to be negative Nancy's and would want the best for the consoles that they enjoy.
Sure.
Unfortunately, and people can at me at this one. I really don't care. I don't see anything enjoyable
what
about
some
the
people
Xbox.
were hoping was that, so I did this on a solo podcast, and people were actually wanting me to bring this here because they thought that Alex and Brinton would, quote, talk me off the ledge. Well, boys and girls, talk me off that ledge.
What ledge? There's no ledge for me to talk you off of.
Yep.
If anything, I'm right there with you. So like
Exactly.
I mean, so at that point, Alex is gonna have to either like push us off the ledge, join us, or try to pull us off of it.
Well, he'd
And
probably
honestly,
just join us at that point. He'd be like, this is just too much effort.
Well, yeah, exactly. I see him joining us, and then I just watch all three of us just jump off of it for fun.
Yeah,
Like,
there you go.
woo!
It's almost like I know what I'm talking about, people. So, at that point, there really isn't much else to put there, but yes, the console wars are over. Yes, you totally called that, let me tell you. Moving on into the next one. Now, technically, this has been announced before, but we officially got more details on it this month, as, in case you guys didn't know, Netflix acquired the rights to BioShock and decided they're going to make a movie off of it.
Really? Since when?
A couple of years, actually. They talked to the creator of BioShock first, and he was the one that leaked it, that Netflix was considering doing something with BioShock. We just didn't know what.
Okay. Well, continue.
So at that point, Netflix is going to be doing a movie adaptation of BioShock. And at that point, depending on your viewpoint, some people are positive about it because they love the world of Rapture, and others are basically looking at this as, oh boy, they're going to wreck it just like they wrecked Cowboy Bebop. So, that being said, I mean, I know you had it as a triad Let's Play that you wanted to do. Did you ever get around to the BioShock series?
I think, which one was I in the middle of? I had finished Gears of War 1, and I never finished that triad Let's Play. I think I was going to do either Badass Women Part 2 or BioShock after that.
Okay, so
Can't remember.
So you didn't technically get around to it.
Unfortunately not.
So, for those who do not know what it is, BioShock is a 2007 video game that was a spiritual successor to a game called System Shock. System Shock and BioShock have different premises, but there are some themes that kind of lean together. And one of the reasons that BioShock was as adored as it was because of the world it was built in. In the world of Rapture, which is really based off of an Ayn Rand-based America, you basically go to the ruins of Rapture because Rapture destroyed itself. Why did it destroy itself? Because, well, their innovations basically destroyed them. So you have to deal with what are called splicers that have basically taken various superpowers and continue to just shove it into themselves. So they're basically like zombies, but with superpowers. But you also have other elements that basically make it a really great first-person survival horror game. I actually love BioShock 1 and BioShock Infinite. Not a big fan of BioShock 2. BioShock 2 is just BioShock multiplayer, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, my sentiments are the same. Funny, like, the only memory I have of BioShock 2 was watching a college roommate play it, and there were a bunch of other people in the room. I happened to be passing by when he was using like the big drill from the Big Daddy on one of the splicers, and without even thinking, I say, "Wow, you sure drilled her." Oh, oop, and well, then I got laughed out of the room.
So at that point, now, BioShock, ever since its popularity in 2007, has had Hollywood interest since then. For example, Gore Verbinski, who was a former director of the Pirates of the Caribbean series, he wanted to do a BioShock film and was not able to get the rights to it until Netflix approached Ken Levine, the creator of it, and they were able to get his permission, and they acquired the rights to be able to do a BioShock movie. Unfortunately, we don't have much information on what they're planning to do. Are they just planning to recreate BioShock 1's story? We don't know. Or are they planning to tell a completely different story within the world of Rapture? We don't know. But bottom line is that this has basically gotten a divide within the fandom community, because obviously with Netflix's recent blunders of Masters of the Universe Revelation and with Cowboy Bebop, they're worried that this is yet another beloved franchise that is going to go down the tubes, or it could turn out to be just as good as the Castlevania series that Netflix did. So it's 50-50 at this point. Unfortunately, we don't have too much information on who exactly is working on it. I believe they've secured their writer as well as their director, but I don't think, at least in this article, I don't think they're named. So at that point, it's up in the air on whether or not this is going to be a good thing, a bad thing, but potentially what is you guys' take on it, given what you think of Netflix's recent releases in new fledged content. I'll go into mine in a minute. Alex, what about you? Like, I know that you and I have talked about doing BioShock, but we just hadn't gotten around to it yet. Thankfully, the plan was to do Resident Evil and then eventually build ourselves up to something like BioShock. And so we could do it eventually, but what's your take on Netflix doing a BioShock film?
I guess it could go either way. It could be good, could be bad. I mean, video game movie curse is a thing. We'll see.
Yes. I mean, there are a lot of video game adaptations that have been bad. I mean, all I have to do is mention Uwe Boll, and that brings a lot of pain to a lot of gamers' hearts. But there have been good adaptations, too. So at this point, it's kind of 50-50.
Yeah.
Brenton, what about you?
I'm going to approach this a little bit more positively. I really do like a lot of the movies that Netflix has produced in the last several years, especially what they have lined up for 2022.
Okay.
I also feel like Hollywood has better understood what the right formula is for adapting a video game into a movie. And I have been very pleased with a lot of these movies.
I mean, one we're anticipating is when Adi Shankar does his adaptation of Devil May Cry. Because so the guy who did Castlevania, he's working on a Devil May Cry animated series as well. Oh, you didn't know that?
No.
Yeah, and personally, as a Castlevania fan, I'm 50-50 about it, because the first 2 seasons of Castlevania were amazing. 3 went into some really weird directions. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they couldn't do better or worse with Devil May Cry. So I'm still optimistic.
Well, that is a tangent for another moment.
Yeah.
Like I said, I have a positive approach. The movies that I've seen, video games into movies, have been really good. I'm excited for Uncharted. I just haven't gotten around to seeing it yet. I've been happy with the stuff that Netflix has produced. I think that we could get something of merit, whether to say that they're going to completely adapt BioShock moment for moment, word for word into this movie, obviously is completely unknown. That is something that the 3 of us obviously have no clue on. However, I think it would be cool to see the video game be the movie, instead of them trying to approach an entirely different story. I think they need to establish a foundation first before they branch off into other potential stories.
Okay. For myself, here's the thing. BioShock is a great franchise these days because of its 2007 popularity. But I am a little worried about it because, again, this is a world based off of a politically divisive figure named Ayn Rand. To basically say Ayn Rand is an objectivist, and basically the premise of Rapture is that in order to get away from the evils of government, the founder of Rapture, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, Andrew Ryan, that's his name. Andrew Ryan decided to take the citizens of Rapture underwater and to basically run a free society and a free market-based society within it, and it kind of blew up in his face. And not necessarily because of his fault. Like, you go through the world and you find out that there were things going against Andrew Ryan that he couldn't have predicted. So at that point, it's an interesting premise, but it's also an interesting world to walk into. So I think they have the potential to do it. I can't necessarily say that they don't, but there's a lot to prove. And my only complaint with Netflix is the fact that they've had a difficulty keeping their talent from driving fans away, but they've been one of the people that have actually fixed that. They also are the people that hired the guy to do Cuties, and that is the one project in my craw that I will never drop because it's still disgusting. So at that point, I will always hold Netflix accountable for that. But it doesn't mean that BioShock would be bad because they did that. They've hired people based off the ideas that they've gotten. And whether they've worked or whether they've not worked, it's been 50-50. Honestly, it has. Like, there have been as much new projects for Netflix as there have been new good ones. So this could go either way. I am cautiously optimistic. Let's put it that way. Because as soon as I see, like, if I so much as see that the Big Daddies identify as an Apache helicopter, I am out. Absolutely out. Because that's not what a Big Daddy is, and that's not the Big Daddy that I want to see. Let's put it that way. Alex, I cut you off. Sorry.
No, nothing.
Okay.
I was gonna say something, but I think you already covered it, so never mind.
Okay. So at that point, there really isn't much to get into here, but yes, BioShock is happening. Hopefully you guys are excited. Really quick, I actually do want to make reference to our live chat because they have been joining us, and I have not ignored them, but I just haven't had a way to be able to bring them in. Zero the Hero actually brings up with the Bungie acquisition, I think they're going to use it to make a bunch of game movies and marathon remake and a new MMO that's better than WoW. And that's entirely possible, a direction that they could go, because Destiny technically is an MMO, and you could say that they've had experience in making MMOs, so they could easily go down that road, and it would make sense. I think that they'll utilize the FPS aspect as well. I don't know, maybe you won't get Destiny, but maybe you'll get like I said, Resistance Fall of Man. Maybe you'll get an MMO based off of that. So that being said, let's go ahead and get into the next story that we have, and this is the other big top story that we have tonight that inspired the title that Brinton loves so much. So up until now, when I say Bendergate, did you guys actually know what that was?
Yes, I know what it is.
Okay. Brinton, what about you?
No,
Okay.
I have no idea what you're referring to.
So, to bring people up to speed, because some people actually were confused, Hulu, it's either Hulu or Disney Plus, are working on yet another revival of the series Futurama. I believe it's Hulu.
Hulu. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so at that point, they have been acquiring the cast silently and have been working on scripts, and Disney is paying the money because they own the rights. Well, one of the things that people noticed when they announced that they were going to be doing this this continuation of Futurama, is that star John DiMaggio had not been cast yet. And for those who don't know John DiMaggio, he played basically the favorite character of everybody who loves Futurama, Bender. So if you like the words, kiss my, or what is it? Bite my shiny metal ass. That's John DiMaggio saying it. And so already there was outcry because John DiMaggio wasn't attached to it. And John DiMaggio, confirmed that he wasn't attached yet, but then we got a little bit more information. Turns out he was still in talks with them over negotiating funds for his return to the Bender character. And in turn, some of the rumors that were happening that led to Bendergate are actually part of this, because those negotiations weren't going well. Because John DiMaggio had the gall, the unmitigated gall, Alex, to ask for more money.
Wow.
The voice actor asked for more money. The audacity. So, in turn, because of that, Hulu was pretty much convinced they were not going to be able to fix this, and then in turn started holding auditions for the Bender character, which the Twitterverse got hold of. And that's how we got Bendergate, is that they saw that they were auditioning new people for Bender and immediately thought that they were not going to bring in John DiMaggio. And John DiMaggio did, in fact, confirm that no, they were in negotiations, but he was calling for more money because, as we've covered many times on this podcast and even with Brinton, voice actors are not the most lucratively paid in the industry. It's safe to say that regular TV actors, regular commercial people, make more money than some Hollywood voice actors. And we're talking people who are in the Disney staple as well. So at that point, like the most job security that you could ever have, you are still making shit as far as money is concerned. There are even some anime voice actors that make more than stable voice actors of Disney, Fox, or any of those. So DiMaggio has since actually come out with some quotes on it that I actually do want to point out because he makes a good point that I think Alex would agree with. I've been thinking about everything that's been going on these past months, and just to be clear, I don't think that I only deserve to be paid more. I think the entire cast does.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all of the other actors came back, like Billy West, for pittance because it's work, and because the system has put them down for so long that it's just a fight that they don't want to have. And so at that point, John DiMaggio was one of the people that asked the question. This is now the third revival of Futurama. For people who don't remember, Futurama was originally on Fox, and then it was revived on Comedy Central, and now Hulu is bringing it back. So at that point, there's popularity, it's safe to say. And at that point, yeah, maybe you can pay the actors a little bit more for their roles, because voice actors don't get paid pittance compared to some of the... Like, if you get a celebrity voice actor, like, say, Patrick Stewart coming in to do a celebrity voice on The Simpsons, he will get paid more because celebrity.
Yeah.
But, as Patrick Stewart has also pointed out, that wasn't the same case when he worked on American Dad. Yeah, he got the pittance of a voice actor. And so at that point, I know that Patrick Stewart has been one of those vocally saying that voice actors ought to earn more and ought to gain a little bit more recognition in the industry. Thank you, Patrick Stewart, for saying that. I appreciate that. And John DiMaggio has been one of those because John has worked in the industry for far long. It almost feels like somebody like Mark Hamill could be saying stuff about this, but no, he hasn't. He hasn't really spoken out on it that much. Yeah. So at that point, negotiations are at a natural part of working in business. Everyone has a different strategy and different boundaries. Their price, some accept offers, some hold their ground. Bender is a part of my soul, and nothing about this is meant to be disrespectful to the fans of my Futurama family, which is how, by the way, Disney and Hulu painted it. Is John DiMaggio doesn't care about the fans. All he cares about is lining his pockets with money. The unmitigated gall that a man wants to be able to, buy food and to be able to get a house that maybe might be closer to the studio.
Yeah. Plus, you know how expensive it is to live in California.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they had
Oh,
no
I
problem. They had no problem firing people like Hank Azaria because how dare they do an Indian accent?
They didn't fire him. He
Well,
resigned
yeah, he resigned.
the
But
role
still.
willingly. I mean, I think he's
if he
still
hadn't resigned, they would have fired him.
maybe not. But or they might have. I don't know. Well, whatever. That's
But
another
anyway,
topic.
but that's what I'm saying is like, okay, everybody likes Hank Azaria. And Hank Azaria had like 6 different roles on The Simpsons. Do you want to know why he had 6 different roles on The Simpsons? Because you could add on money to each one that he did. So as much as I would like to be able to see more people be able to get that, I also thought that they ought to increase the amount of money that these were getting, especially if they were popular series like The Simpsons, Futurama, King of the Hill, which is also in talks for a reboot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people should be earning money for this, like more money for this if it's popular and it has a high demand.
Yeah,
But
they're bringing it back. Obviously, people want more Futurama. It's now come back from the dead. Like this is the 3rd time coming back from the dead. It went from Fox to Comedy Central. Now it's going to Hulu.
and yet
yeah.
there's still more ideas that can be done with it.
Yeah.
thing.
So
So at that point, like
absolutely.
we're talking the original cast members. These guys are the ones that didn't say anything. Billy West, Katie Seagal. If people don't know Katie Seagal, she's the one who played Leela. So she's Peggy from Married with Children. Tress MacNeille, Maurice LaMarche, Lauren Tom, Phil Lamar, David Herman. By the way, Phil Lamar and Maurice LaMarche have been people that have actually stepped out and said, I believe, that the voice actors ought to be earning more recognition within Hollywood because of their role. Nobody listens to them. And Maurice LaMarche, I mean, he only voiced a character by the name of the Brain. Numerous others. Phil Lamar has done actually a nice mix of TV and voiceover roles, and he still doesn't get taken seriously in this regard. Yeah. So at that point...
that's just like... I mean, as we keep going in circles and saying this over and over and over and over again, like, that is very sickening to me that this is a thing because of the incredible voice talents that are truly out there and that they're not getting the compensation for the time that they put stressing their vocal cords to do things that not a whole lot of people can do. My only claim to fame at like being able to do like fun voices, because it just was never really something I could commit to nor do well when I was Let's Playing. I can do a Toad voice from Super Mario kind of well. And again, my boyfriend's watching this. I'm sure he's laughing his head off because I can't tell you how many times I've done Toad voice.
Hey, boyfriend, we'll get it out of him. Don't worry about it.
Do you want me to talk like Toad for the rest of this? Because I will kill my esophagus.
No, but I already know that I have you for a stream tomorrow as well. So I got time.
Well, I mean, if you want to play a Mario
Hey,
Party
I'm going to be
game,
doing nothing but memes tomorrow night of, hey, come on!
Oh my gosh, he's actually already texting me right now. I'm pretty sure it has something to do with like, haha, yeah, your Toad voice.
I stain my hands with your blood.
I only mentioned this because I know how much of like wear and tear I put on my own vocal cords when I would tease my sister with Toad voice while playing Super Mario Party, because I made Toad sound like super desperate and a loser, and she hated that.
Well, Toad is super desperate and a loser. Hey, Mario! I mean, I love him, but hey, Mario! Gotta go get the princess!
You did nothing.
Exactly.
I just watched her get kidnapped. Why does nobody like me? I'm so lonely.
Why does nobody like me? Oh, no! I gotta keep it down, because I can only do the loud Toad, and I'll wake up my kids. But...
Oh, I mean... Well, my neighbors have been, like, ridiculously loud, so it's not like I care. But anyway, the point I'm trying to say is...
I'll send a video to you want to send to your boyfriend, which is, like, the best thing the Game Grumps ever did with Toad's voice.
Which one? Because I've sent many a thing.
The Galaxy one, where he talks about like real war. That's great.
War Toad. I think I
can't put your
Jason,
insides back in, Toad.
If I haven't.
We'll get through this together, Toad.
That was stupid. I love it. Jason, if I haven't showed you that, I'll be more than happy to send it to you. No, the one I showed.
Okay.
No, the one that I showed him was Aaron singing a Tupac song in Toad voice, and it kills me. Just kills me every time. But you can hear it but the point is you can hear it in their voices when they talk that it's a lot of strain. And so for them not to get compensated fairly for doing something so strenuous to their vocal cords is cruel. It's cruel and unusual. And I can't believe there's not enough people speaking out for that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for crying out loud, the best example isn't even like Toad. The best example would be Golems, because this voice is on 3 movies that people know is precious. And that man has done more for voice actors than anybody has in the last 10 years. Okay.
If you want to see some...
That voice
if you want to see some... Oh, sorry.
No, I'm saying that voice is taxing. So taxing that I had to think about his name for a second there. Andy Serkis had to have concoctions made, literally called Golem juice, so that he could maintain that, because not only was he a voice actor, he was the motion capture guy for Gollum. So at that point, like, he was wrecking his voice on the regular and climbing rocks as well. Hollywood has never really had respect for voiceover. They've always looked at it as a children's thing. But here's the one thing that I would also like to point out, because Alex can actually speak to this more than I can. Most of the voice acting jobs that we're talking about are union because of SAG-AFTRA. Alex, how many anime voice acting jobs are union?
Quite a bit. I can't tell you a number, but definitely a lot of them are.
Were they that way for the past 10 years? Past 20
Maybe
years?
not. Maybe within the last 10 years, I'm not, but certainly 20 years ago, no.
Do you want to know one thing that was very actively heard upon in the 90s and early 2000s with anime voice actors? Passing out in the booth.
Yeah.
In fact, Chris Sabat and Sean Schemmel are well known for this because of all the screams that they had to do as Goku and Vegeta.
Yep.
So at that point, those weren't union at that point. So at that point, if they wrecked their voice, Brenton, that was oh shit for them.
Well,
that's how much
that sucks.
That's how much voice actors are cared about, and only now are they getting that pittance to them in 2020. If this was happening, is it safe to say, Alex, if this was happening to somebody like, I don't know, Meryl Streep, would it have taken 30 years to get good conditions for voice actors?
Oh, of course not. I know you asked Alex that, but like hell no.
Funniest thing about that. The reason I bring this up is because in some cases those voice actors have more credits to them than most of the most beloved actors that you can think of. And they have it because multiple credits on different series, which I know that some people get super pissed about. How dare they have 30 different credits on one series? Well, again, they were the ones that could do it. And voice acting paid for shit. So they had to get multiple roles so they could get paid more. So you want to get mad about people like Hank Azaria for having 6 different roles in The Simpsons? Okay. Pay them more. Make it so that they can one-to-one every character on The Simpsons.
Yeah. But a lot of times it's not even just a matter of getting paid more. Sometimes it's just when you're talking animation, low budget stuff tend to be you have to double up a lot of the voices because you just can't afford a big cast.
Because you are given whatever the film company gives you in terms of budget. So that
does require a lot of voice actors to kind of go above and beyond and take on a lot of different characters, right? I mean, Adam, you and I do lots of funny voiceovers when we do Let's Plays. You know,
Sure.
we have fun with it. How
I
many-
especially
you know,
loved when we had Andrea do Aya Brea, and it was just, I'm feeling something right now.
right? But like, and we of course have to double up. We always have to like double up characters. But like, how hard is it for us to be kind of consistent with even in our own
Yes.
fun little voice?
And
we're
you,
just doing
you
it
can
for
even
fun.
concede I've given legit performances.
Yeah,
on
I mean,
those.
I
Some
think
of which
we-
I've actually
we have
added to my
fun.
demo reels.
Yeah.
No, you guys like look at freaking Game Grumps. Like even in a most recent video, which ended up just being hilarious. They're currently playing Danganronpa 2, which has just been fabulous. But there was like, it switches over to a character, and Aaron accidentally starts the sentence with the wrong voice that
Sure,
he
he's
chose
done that
for the
numerous
character.
times.
Yeah, it was just funny because he starts it with the wrong voice, starts it again with the next wrong voice, and then starts it again with the correct voice, and then both of them just crack up laughing.
Yeah, and here's the thing, is like Aaron does voiceover on the regular. Like he does it for commercials and things. See, a lot of people don't realize this, but a lot of voiceover money is made corporately for being the spokesman for Subway or stuff like that. And what's even better about that is that the thespian actors will frown upon those who work with the corporations, because how dare they? This is why I bring this up. I hate this narrative with Hollywood. How dare you want to make money in a world where money is required for everything? How dare you? And it's blown up in their faces a couple of times now. The best one was when they did it to Scarlett Johansson. Scarlett Johansson doesn't care about COVID or anything like that. No, she's just looking to make a quick buck. Oh, that blew up in Disney's face so hard, didn't it? So at that point, maybe John DiMaggio isn't a villain here. Maybe he's just looking for better working conditions. I think a lot of people in Hollywood are fighting for something very similar to that. I mean, I might be wrong. I'm not. They want better working conditions, but they don't want to fix what's already there. And then they slander those who know that they're successful and know that they could be making a lot more money for playing a robot that was known for saying, "Bite my shiny metal ass." And when he asks for that, how dare he? Well, obviously, he doesn't care about the fans. That's a bullshit line, and they know it. Okay?
We're talking about the corporation that its lowest cruise experience for Star Wars at $4,800 a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Produces something that's cheap and crappy. So
that's not even the first division that Disney mistreats. Trust me, I know plenty. They mistreat a lot of their divisions. And Disney, and I hate to say, I know that a lot of people want to bring up how evil Walt Disney was. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think he was a good man, and I think he may have had viewpoints that people don't agree with. But I think if he saw his current vision of what his company is currently doing, he would fire everybody. And he would literally just let everything die, because it would be much better for it to just die than for it to continue the way that it has. So at that point, maybe Disney, pull your head out of your ass. And instead of trying to vilify people, maybe you ought to listen to the guy. Maybe Billy West deserves to get more money, because he plays 4 different roles on there that are all beloved. Or shall I point out that not only does he play Philip J. Fry, but he also plays Captain Zep Brannigan. And people love that rendition, don't they? So that's really all I'm saying on this one. Final thoughts, guys, because obviously I've spent a lot of time on this one, and people know my viewpoint.
Yes, I have a final thought. Hey, Disney, stop villainizing everybody like it's a Disney movie.
I've actually been very happy with people like, crap, I can never remember his name. The guy who plays Winnie the Pooh, who has taken on multiple roles and is as conservative as they come, and he's even chastised Disney for it. and said how bad it is. In fact, I found it funny with his case, they actually sided with his ex-wife and still brought him on to continue to do his job. So it just shows how much they care.
So Jim Cummings.
Jim Cummings, thank you. Jim Cummings, I know that David Ogden Stiers has also said stuff like this, and he's as old school actor as they come. For those who don't know him, as Charles Emerson Winchester. He also played the audacious, the wonderful what was it, Clockwork? That was his name. The clock in Beauty and the Beast. Clocksworth.
Oh, Cogsworth.
Cogsworth. So he played that before Ian McKellen had ever done that, and also he played the villain in Pocahontas. So, yeah, he's saying it too. Maybe it's something you gotta look
Villain
into.
in Pocahontas.
Yeah, he was
Ratcliffe, I think.
Radcliffe. Yeah,
Oh, okay. Moving on.
the guy
Sorry.
that wanted gold. So, yeah, I love I love Charles
Well, when I
Emerson
think-
Winchester.
Well, when I think about the Native Americans and the pioneers, and people are like, oh, yeah, the villains, the first thing I think about are, oh, you mean how we forced Native Americans out of their land and forced them into reservations and also slaughtering them at the same time?
Well,
Yes.
I'd argue they were slaughtering themselves well before that. But that's me.
There's American history
This is something we don't have to go into, but I can't
Yeah.
even remember. What was his title? Radcliffe. Was it No, it wasn't Cardinal.
No, you're thinking of Hunchback there.
Yeah, that's Hunchback. It wasn't Lord Radcliffe.
Somebody has to watch Pocahontas after the show, even though it's
all right,
10:30 at
it's on
night.
Freeform. I could just have Andrea watch it for me.
Oh my gosh.
But it was something. I can't remember.
Governor
Radcliffe. That's right. So with that, let's go ahead and move on into the next story that we have, because this one a lot of people wanted us to talk about. So these were technically both videos. I'm not necessarily going to play the trailers unless we have a huge demand for it, but people might remember that not only did Nintendo have some big announcements, but also Capcom did. In fact, they started off this month with a clock, of all things, counting down. And it turned out that one of the things it was counting down to was the final match of the Capcom Pro Tour Street Fighter V tournament. And oh boy, the reveal that happened there. People might remember last month I mentioned that it was Street Fighter's 35th anniversary. And so the first thing that we have to bring up is Street Fighter 6 got announced. It is official. It's in development. We don't have a release date. But there were a couple of interesting things that were brought up with that trailer. First of all, Ryu looks like a Stretch Armstrong figure. I don't know why, but he does. I would actually credit this to the fact that... do people want me to put up the trailer to watch it? Because I can totally do it. I've got it ready and up and coming. So
if somebody wants to watch it, they can do it on their own time. It's not something we need to do right now.
Yeah, it's not that long. It's a teaser. So at that point, the biggest development change to it is that we now know that Street Fighter 6 has been confirmed to be in development in the RE engine. So, for those who don't know, the RE engine is the engine that was used for Resident Evil 7. It was used for Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 3 Remake, and also for Resident Evil 8 Village.
That's not a bad engine.
It's not a bad engine. It's Capcom made. So at that point, Street Fighter 6 will be made in that engine, so a lot of people are very happy about it. It's difficult for me because it's definitely not a look that these characters have been in. I've been very used to how they've looked in Street Fighter 4 and 5, but this was a teaser trailer. This was not showcasing gameplay. So at that point, I'm willing enough to give that concession. Ryu does look really weird and stretched, but it's also based off of the exclusive pre-order costume of Ryu, which has been affectionately called Lumberjack Ryu. Basically, it's where, because you know who Ryu is, right, Brenton? Okay, so
Yeah, I'm familiar with Street Fighter.
have you seen the Street Fighter V version of him?
I sure have.
Yeah, so
I
this
mean,
is where he has his gi down, and he's bare-chested, and he's got a lumberjack beard. And a lot of people actually think that this was a perfect succession of how the character should be going, is that he should look like that, and they kept that image for Street Fighter 6, and so a lot of people are very happy about that. The other character that is displayed in it, I would argue we don't know, but a lot of people have stated that it might be the last character that was added in Street Fighter V, named Luke, who is based off of basically current MMA fighters. So at that point, that's probably where we're going with it. But I love the fact that the biggest argument that has happened with Street Fighter 6 is its logo. So without further ado, give me a quick second, guys. I'm going to let you guys be the judge, okay?
I'm looking at it right now.
You're looking at the Street Fighter 6 logo, so let me bring it up for Alex.
Well, I mean, I'm also looking at Lumberjack Ryu because, I mean...
he's great, isn't he? I love that look.
Well, I mean, I do have a predisposition with men with lumberjack beards.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. I can't necessarily deny this, but let me see if I can bring this up for Alex, and he can kind of make his viewpoint on this. So, let me share my screen here so you can actually see the various logos, dude. And then here we go. Go live with it. So, this is the beef that people have been having with it. So here is the original Street Fighter logo right here, Alex. So kind of what people are used to. This is Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 3, Street Fighter 4, which is probably the most beloved one, Street Fighter 5, and then here is Street Fighter 6.
Okay.
Apparently it's shit. Is it shit?
I mean it's basic, I guess. I don't know why they felt the need to change
it's
it. When
basic, like it's from a teaser?
Yeah, but who's to say it's not going to be final? It's... I
think we've actually gotten confirmation that it's not. They're currently doing this right now just because it was based in the Pro Tour. So at that point, it ultimately could be. And I don't think it's the greatest thing, but it's something that could be gotten used to. I mean, I haven't liked logos since Street Fighter 4. So, like, that's my preference. But just to kind of give some other aspects on this, because you have actually seen the RE engine at work, Alex. You've actually played some of these games. So let me actually showcase some of the characters in question. And keep in mind, Alex, some of these are shadowed because it is a teaser trailer. So that being said, here is Ryu. So it is heavily based in the Street Fighter V design for him. And let me see if I can actually bring up a better look of his. There you go. So this is how his body is supposed to look in that. So that's why I'm saying he looks a little stretched. But that could be the RE engine at work because now that I look at him, I think there's a lot of Nemesis vibes to how he looks. And then let's see, do we have Luke or the presumed Luke? And then here's a comparison. So this is Street Fighter V Ryu, but this was a pre-order skin. So if you didn't get it, you had to wait until the Champion Edition to get it. But it was really good. And then that's the comparison to Street Fighter 6, how they're keeping that image as basically the logical progression of the character. So there you go, Alex. Your thoughts on how it looks?
Pretty nice.
It looks pretty good. I will still make Stretch Armstrong jokes on Ryu just because, he does look really stretched to me. But, I mean, I'm still excited for it because I think we've stayed with Street Fighter V way too long, personally. But I will say this. I am cautiously optimistic because if people remember, I wasn't very favorable to Street Fighter V when it came out. I was very criticized. I was very critical of it, primarily because of the fact that when it came out, the only thing that was working in it was online play, and it wasn't necessarily working that great. So, Brenton might know this. Some people play fighting games for the story, because like an arcade mode would exist, like it does in Smash. That wasn't there. Training mode wasn't there. like actual local versus wasn't there. The only thing that was there was online multiplayer. That was it. And that was the biggest complaint that a lot of people had, because it took them months later to implement their story for it. And on top of that, it took even longer than that to start implementing DLC characters, which in this day and age is the life's blood of a fighting game. People want to see who's coming next. Who's going to change up the flow and the formula that you already have with the existing roster. And so at that point, all of this was a major flaw when it came to Street Fighter V. My only hope is that, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, they need to learn from those mistakes, and they need to release Street Fighter VI the way it's supposed to be, with everything in there. And then at that point, let it be what it is. Because that was Street Fighter V's biggest problem. Street Fighter IV didn't have any of that problem. But unfortunately, because Capcom was rushing to get that out into the online fight, onto the esports scene, that's what they did with Street Fighter V, and it blew up in their face. So I'm hoping that they very much learn from this. Final thoughts on this one, Brinton. Am I smoking crack?
No, not at all.
Yeah. I like Street Fighter is a cornerstone of the fighting game community. It needs to be there, and frankly, 5 is really outstayed its welcome. I mean, I was glad that Champion Edition was able to get another season of characters, but it's more than enough outstayed its welcome. And so at that point, I'm very happy with Street Fighter VI coming soon. But I have to also admit this. That was not the coolest announcement that they had from that. The other coolest announcement in honor of the 35th anniversary of Street Fighter was the Capcom Fighting Game, the Capcom Fighting Collection, which, for those who don't know what this basically is, this was a homage to all of the fighting games that they've done in the past that maybe haven't been the most popular. So in Capcom Fighting Collection, which is going to come out June 24th, 2022, you will be able to get a bunch of fighting games that either never made it to the States or are fighting games that just never got the recognition that, say, Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat did. For example, pretty much every Darkstalkers game is in that lineup. And as a Darkstalkers fan, I am overjoyed by this, especially when Resident Evil 3 Remake teased Morrigan, a character from the Darkstalkers franchise. So I'm very happy to say that this is there. Every single iteration of Darkstalkers is in this. Not only that, but Street Fighter 2, the Anniversary Edition, which is basically Super Turbo, the final edition of Street Fighter 2, is also available in this. Also, Gem Fighter is in it. For those who don't know what that is, it's basically where you have chibi Street Fighter characters playing around with gems.
That sounds adorable.
Oh, but that gets better, because you also have Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, which is a Tetris-style fighting game with same chibi characters. So if you're a Tetris fan, if you guys ever knew, like, what was it, Pokemon Battle League or whatever it was that came out on Pokemon Puzzle League that came out for N64, that's what this is. It's a puzzle game based in Street Fighter / Darkstalkers, and so if you get like a really big chain combo, you get to release a super move, and that's how you win, kind of thing. So I'm happy about that one, but also we get 2 games that I don't believe got a big release in the States. One is Cyberbots, a mecha-based fighting game, so obviously I'm going to want to play that, right, Alex?
Yeah.
And actually, that is the origin, a lot of people don't know this, of the Marvel vs. Capcom character Jin is from that game, as well as a little game known by the name of Red Earth. Now, technically, both Cyberbots and Red Earth have gotten US release dates, but they were shoved into random collections on the PlayStation that maybe people bought, maybe people didn't. But Red Earth is interesting because not only was it a new IP that they were looking very hard to come into popularity, but one of the main reasons why is because this was a game where Capcom experimented with a little concept you guys might know by the name of fatalities. Yes, Capcom tried to make fatalities. And didn't work out so well. But Red Earth is the game that they did that in. Now, why am I bringing this up, Drak? Because this is just for fighting game nuts, right? Yes, but this actually points out a major change for Capcom, because unlike other collections that have had only certain games available in online, and under their code, which their code isn't all that great, this will have every single game have online functionality, but in rollback netcode. This is a major victory for fighting game fans, as Alex knows, because I've brought this up with the Nickelodeon Smash clone. Why? Because, to bring people up to speed, rollback netcode is basically the best code on the market for online matchmaking. It works the best, it requires the least amount of bitrate to be able to function, and it allows for matchmaking to happen like this instead of 10-minute lobbies. Now that exists for 10 old-school Capcom games.
Wait.
They get to play with everybody, and they get to play in the fastest matchmaking that could ever be possible. This is something that nobody thought Capcom would do, ever. Capcom had to lose to games like Killer Instinct that had rollback netcode. Capcom had to lose to little games by the name of, I don't know, Nickelodeon All-Stars that had rollback netcode. And now they have finally learned their lesson. So that is where that is an amazing announcement, because not only are they bringing back a bunch of nostalgic fighting games for fighting game fans, but they are making it able to be played online the best way possible. So this is an amazing thing. Not only that, they're adding artwork that people can see, like the birth of certain Darkstalkers characters. They are also adding in a bunch of background music, basically doing what Smash did, where they have a bunch of background music tracks that you can get for all of these games and be able to jam out to your favorite background music of your favorite stages. It's all there. So I'm just going to go ahead and ask this question honestly. Which is the bigger announcement, Street Fighter 6 or this?
Well, just alone from how you've talked about the second announcement, I would say that it would be the bigger of the two.
Do you know what Darkstalkers is, Brinton?
No, I don't.
Darkstalkers is a fighting game franchise that was literally based, like this was the premise of it. Universal monsters fighting each other.
Pretty cool.
So you have a vampire, you have a Frankenstein, you have a Bigfoot, you have a creature from the Black Lagoon, you have a werewolf, you have a zombie. All of them can fight each other in Capcom style. This was so popular, it in fact got an anime OVA. That's not as good, but it's a fighting game OVA, so don't judge me. I like it. Yes, Donovan preaches way too much in it. I get it. But it was still good to see John Talbot, damn it. So, yeah, I'm excited for this one because I've been a Darkstalkers fan for a long time. I've been really wanting them to be able to do something. I don't need a new iteration. Just give me the old stuff and let me be able to play online. The one thing that I found very funny in the reaction to this is MVC collaboration when? People really want Marvel vs. Capcom done in this format. And I can understand why. Because Marvel vs. Capcom is just as beloved. And we don't necessarily need to have a new game. Just give us the chance to be able to play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 online. That's all we want. That's all we want. Even Alex enjoyed MVC 2, right?
Yes.
It was a great game. And no, we can't play it anymore. Unless I kept it on my PS3. Which I did. Because screw you. Whoever made the decision, that was bad. So at that point, yeah, let's go ahead and move on into the last story that we have, because we are running out of time, my friends. And this one isn't also going to take a whole lot of time, but I did want to point out, Capcom, you did good. You gave people what they wanted, because the fighting game community, who is currently salivating over Guilty Gear Strive and a little game that me and Brinton are going to be playing tomorrow called King of Fighters 15, you gave the Street Fighter audience what they wanted. So I'll give you that credit. But I also have to give some credit to Microsoft tonight, because, well, they put their foot down with Bethesda. Funniest thing about Bethesda, Brinton, they insisted, like every other company that wasn't Steam, that they needed their own version, because they didn't want to pay Steam to put their games up there. How dare you imply that they should? And so that has created a lot of horrible systems that people still despise, by the names of Origin, by the names of Uplay, and also by Bethesda.net. I am happy to announce to Bethesda fans that Bethesda.net is being retired. And this is obviously an internal move by Microsoft, but Bethesda.net, which created a lot of problems for games like Fallout 76, is being shut down this year. And beginning in early April, players will be able to regularly use the game launcher, but will have the option to migrate their game library and their virtual currencies over to Steam, because Steam just does it better. And do you guys understand how many Bethesda fans have been begging for that? Begging to have Skyrim on Steam again?
Oh, I can only begin to imagine.
Yes. So this is an amazing decision, and despite what places like G4 and IGN are saying on this matter, this is a good decision and shows Microsoft flexing its muscle on Bethesda. Because even though, yes, Microsoft has the Windows Store, and I'm pretty sure that these Bethesda games will be made available in the Windows Store, they also openly admit that with some of their Windows Store games, they need to be made available on bigger platforms like Steam. And they're willing to do that. So this was actually, in my opinion, a good decision to put the Bethesda games out there again so that people can enjoy them again and be able to appreciate them. I mean, you could technically get things like Doom Eternal, I think, was on Steam, but it was also on Bethesda.net. And actually, now that I think about it, yeah, Doom Eternal required a Bethesda.net login in order to be able to get in the first time, because you had to follow their EULA. Well, guess what, boys and girls? All that shit goes away. No more EULAs to accept. No nothing. In fact, we all get to breathe a sigh of relief, because you can play your favorite Bethesda games on Steam, which means all those mods will be back on Steam, where they work. So at that point, I'm going to give it to you guys. You guys' thoughts on this?
I don't. I guess I'm kind of debating on what I want to say. I personally don't have any issues with extra launchers per se.
Mm-hmm.
Like the only thing I ever played on Origin was The Sims. Everybody knows that I'm a huge Ubisoft fan, so having Uplay never really bothered me.
Yeah.
I've lost my Steam account, so I've started to love Epic Game Store a little bit more. And I'm mostly a console player these days, because I've retired from MMOs. So I'm the only time I'm ever really on my laptop these days now is for this or something I want to play on the Epic Game Store.
Let me ask this question then. Where do you think a bigger user base is? Bethesda.net or Steam?
Well, I was gonna get to that.
Yeah.
So I was gonna get to that. I recognize, completely understand that Bethesda.net was completely fastidious and annoying, and probably was not integrated very well,
Yes.
like other launchers. So I think it's fantastic that it is good. that things are going back to Steam, as I just do want to say it's not that I didn't like Steam. I lost access to the email that I used for my Steam account, so I can't log into my
you're
Steam
totally
anymore.
good.
Um,
The main complaint that a lot of people would have with those is just when, like, because here's the thing: you have Uplay. Well, Ubisoft games are available on Steam, and it's primarily because Ubisoft has never seen the reason to exclude people from being able to be on their favorite platform. In fact, they've encouraged people to be on those platforms by offering unique skins to things like Monopoly. In fact, Ubisoft is one of the examples of embracing the fact that you're on multiple sign-in platforms. EA and Bethesda have always been in the dark on this one, and it's primarily because their executives are more interested in making as much money as they possibly can versus being able to have the convenience. And so at that point, that's what's hurt Origin. That is what I would actually dare say that's what currently hurts Origin. What currently hurts Bethesda.net is the fact that you required these Bethesda games to only be available that way, because you basically exclude the ability for them to be gotten anywhere else. Now, I know that some people will bounce back to me, well, you can get Skyrim on PlayStation. Yeah, but if you're PC Master Race, that hurt a lot.
With the Steam Deck coming out and everything migrating back over to Steam, I mean, I know people who have Skyrim.
Why they did it.
Yeah, like I know people who have Skyrim on the Switch, because the next argument could be, well, what about Switch? I've seen people play Skyrim on the Switch handheld, and it does not play well.
No.
Like, it does not play well. And I believe the Steam Deck is a much better way to play that game and have it be portable. From what I've seen, the Steam Deck is going to have it be a much better performance in handheld mode in Nintendo Switch.
Well, and one thing that actually helps this is that Phil Spencer has had access to the Steam Deck. So he knows its potential. And that's why I think he put his foot down here, is because he knew that with the Steam Deck, this is a whole new chain of people that can now play his games on Steam via this portable platform, and allows for him to make even more money, even though he has to pay Steam to put his games up on the store. And, well, I don't think he cares, honestly, because in the long run, he's making more out of it than he has to pay back over to Steam. And that's where I think that Phil Spencer has actually shown proper leadership when it came to Bethesda. Because, believe it or not, people like Todd Howard were very much pro Bethesda.net. And guess what? That's why the company went into the dirt. So at that point, for all the people that want to tell me that Todd Howard is visionary, he's the reason that Microsoft owns Bethesda in a lot of cases. And frankly, this was a good decision by them because it allows for more audience. And I can already tell you guys, if you don't think that the Steam Deck didn't gain the audience of, the blue ocean of casual players, you are kidding yourself. Because most of them own a Switch. And all they looked at that as is, oh, well, this is a gaming PC, but in my hand. Which means I get access to a whole new slew of games that I never had access to before. Oh, well, maybe I ought to go get this. And that's what they
I am interested in Steam Deck. If I didn't lose my Steam account, I would.
So,
I would be in line too if I hadn't lost my Steam account. And most of the games on my Steam account I have on console, so I'm just like, I don't need to
give it time.
Rebuy them.
As soon as they take care of the line, it'll be up on Amazon. I guarantee you. And you'll be able to get it.
We'll wait and see with me. I mean, one of the games that I would repurchase is Control, and I don't need to buy it for a sixth time. So it may be one of my it may be in my top 3 at this point. I don't need to buy it for a sixth time. I'm trying to be better about that, especially after I had told my boyfriend that I'm notorious for rebuying the same game over and over and over and over again. He was just like oh my gosh, no.
Like I said, I've bought Stardew Valley 4 times. I don't care because it's been worth it each time.
I
'Cause
bought Twilight Princess 3 times. I've bought Control 5 times. I think I've bought in like The Sims 4 twice. I could keep going.
oh yeah,
on.
everybody has a list like that. I mean, technically, I bought Street Fighter V twice. Because I bought the base version, which was crap, and then I eventually came back to the Champion Edition, which was everything fixed. So at that point, as long as it's worthwhile, I don't care. Honestly, if you purchase games, and for all the people that want to say, well, you just continue to indulge the system that you think is broken. Yep.
Well, I can't
Because
really
I'll
say the
reward
same
it
for
when
my.
it does something good.
Well, Adam, I can't really say the same for me because Control only has one edition with its 2 DLC, and I've bought that multiple times. Like, there's nothing new. It's the same thing every time. So
You
I
like
have
the
a
game.
problem.
That's all that matters. You like the game, you
Well-
want to support it, and Remedy appreciates you for it.
Well, I mean, I'm not ashamed of it. I'm just saying I have a problem.
Well, maybe, but at that point, like, I just kind of look at it as, I mean, yes, you might have a problem, but I mean, Remedy loves you, because Remedy.
I'm sure they do.
Remedy Entertainment hasn't seen numbers like Control in a long time, because Max Payne 3 didn't do it for him, but the first 2 Max Payne games did. So
Well,
at that point,
Alan
it helps
Wake-
them out.
Alan Wake 2 sure as hell is gonna start boosting
Alan Wake
those
2
numbers
and
even
the
more.
Alan Wake remake, like this is what Remedy wants to do now, because they pretty much ended Max Payne stories. So at that point, I'm for doing what the devs want to do, and if that means
Yeah.
that you buying it 6 times means that they get to do what they want to do. I mean,
they have
is it great
they have this
management
thing-
of your budget? Probably not, but I mean, you helped out the devs.
I mean, they
So-
have this fantastic connected universe that I'm really super loving, especially since it plays around with the paranatural.
Mhm.
So I mean, I
Last
guess
I
I'm
heard,
buying a
Remedy was
Steam
even
Deck.
working on other games that were connected. So
Yeah,
yeah.
they definitely are, and I'm excited. Anyway, but that's not the point.
So
Good. Good on Uncle Phil for putting his foot down with Bethesda. They're going to be going through a lot of growing pains, which I'm sure is going to piss off a lot of people. And honestly, that growth is all about growth is a part of life. If you're not growing, then you're just going backwards.
well, and heaven knows, like they might have the audacity of bringing back Bethesda fans that have left because of Bethesda's mismanagement. So maybe they have more faith now that Microsoft is in charge. Alex, your thoughts on this one before we got to wrap things up, because we're coming up on hour 4.
I didn't even know this thing existed, so whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, but you know that the other ones do, don't you?
I know about
'Cause,
Epic
like,
Games.
I mean, you
that's
hated
about
the
it.
Windows Store for the longest time.
Yeah, I didn't like the Windows Store, but it's like the only real launchers besides Steam is Epic Games that I know of. And Epic seems fine. I don't use it much. I do have it, but yeah, I'm just like, I
Yeah.
didn't know what about Bethesda launcher, so
Epic's
whatever.
probably the only time where they've successfully been able to somewhat clone Steam. But for the longest time, like EA wanted their own individual Steam, Blizzard did it with Battle.net, and that would be the only corporate one I can think of that was successful. So much so that Activision basically merged into it. Uplay is another one that's successful, but primarily because they still work with the other ones, unlike EA Origin or Bethesda.net. But they're a unique thing. So at that point, I think that this was overall a good choice, especially with the Steam Deck coming. So that being said, let's go ahead and wrap things up for the evening. It's been a long night, and maybe for these end of month ones, it will be long nights, but ultimately worth it because we can laugh at the good things and we can properly shit on the bad things. So with that being said, Alex the Shadow Blazer, if people want to be able to reach out to you and be able to talk to you about the opinions that you've expressed tonight or check out your content, how do they do that?
Find me here on YouTube, ShadowBlazer3000. That is my channel. My most recent review was of the anime tie-in Blue Reflection Rey. Check that out. I thought the show, if you want to speak about people reaching out for opinions, well, I thought the show was kind of meh, but somebody in my comments section really, really likes it. So there you go. It's fun to have these kinds of discussions with you people. So please watch the videos, comment on them, whether you like the show a lot, whether you hated the show. I just want to hear from you.
Exactly. Brenton Volley, how do people reach out to you?
Well, they reach out to me through you.
AKA
Or
the
you
way
can-
that they reach out to Alex as well.
Or they can reach out to Alex. Or if you really, really, really want to follow my very dead Twitter feed, you can find me at bvolley01. Other
Okay.
words, you can, if you want to reach out, if you have questions for me, you can always ask Adam or Alex, and I am more than happy to answer them when I am able to make it onto roundtables, extra streams, or on our monthly or end of the month shows. Other words,
Thank you for the coverage.
Yeah.
I needed
Oh,
to
yeah,
get
yeah.
that. I needed to get that out
Other
of my
words,
system.
other words, I am just enjoying video games on my own time.
I was actually going to say, the way that the people can actually enjoy us, because I have no problem plugging this, is you will be joining me tomorrow for the Saturday stream of a new game night for King of Fighters 15. So we'll have some fun with that. Even if we don't just play that the entire time, I mean, I've got other fighting games that we can pick up and we can have some wonderful conversations. In case you guys have not seen a Let's Play involved with Brenton Volley, I would also encourage people to check out the Geek News Game Night of Devil May Cry 5. Because I have no problem saying this. I have been getting asked if a Geek News Marathon night is ever going to happen with Brenton and Alex on the previous Devil May Cry anime that exists, as well as for the new Adi Shankar Devil May Cry. Which at this point we'll probably have to have discussions on, because I already am talking to Brenton about, I don't know, a little thing called Bleach, the 1,000-Year Blood War arc that might be happening. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, we actually do have a roundtable that I think we need to bring Brenton in on, because unlike Alex, Brenton has some experience in esports. And so at that point, this was something that I wanted to do with Romney, but you might be able to help out as well, because you watched quite a bit of esports in your day. And frankly, there are some changes and adjustments that might need to be happening to the esports community that myself, as well as you and Shay Turi, might be needing to tackle at some point or another. So that might be happening very soon. You guys can look forward to that. But make sure to join us tomorrow night at 10 o'clock Eastern for some King of Fighters 15, where we will show the wonderful, voluptuous breasts of Mai Shiranui as many times as we possibly want and piss off Twitter while we do it.
Yeah.
To which, at that point, Terry Bogard will then come out and go, "Come on!" And Brenton will be satisfied because dem pecs.
He just needs a lumberjack beard.
Well, there's Joe Higashi. And he's probably got a bigger chest than Terry. So
Well, my body is ready.
what I'm saying,
all
Brenton,
is
is that there's
magical.
plenty of characters in King of Fighters 15.
Oh, I watched that. Oh, I watched that trailer. I'm excited to play this tomorrow.
Yeah,
So
it's gonna be fun. I'm actually
Looking
looking forward to
forward-
it. I haven't played King of Fighters since, I think I played a little bit of 14, but really it was like 99 or 2000 that I played last. So this will be
Dang.
really fun. I mean, I played Terry Bogard in Smash, but I'm looking forward to getting back into King of Fighters. I'm excited. So that being said, if people want to be able to reach out to me, you can do so on Twitter at GeekyNRO. I have basically procured the Geek News Twitter just because why not? It works out. And also, you can follow me on Instagram at Drak2326, where I put up random Yu-Gi-Oh memes, as well as any other memes that basically come my way. It's actually kind of funny. Since Brenton's been back, I've had nothing but Yu-Gi-Oh memes that I've basically been sending to you guys endlessly. And I especially love the Kaiba memes, because as far as I'm concerned, Seto Kaiba is the Ric Flair of anime. Fight me! Because he is. So at that point, you guys can follow me on those ones. If you want to be able to follow the podcast directly, the way that I ask you to be able to do that is follow the RSS feed, which is geekynro.libsyn.com, where that has connections to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Player.fm, and Spotify. So you guys can join us for that and also get all of the awesome content that is provided there, like, say, Geek News Movie Night, which will be making a return. Probably we'll start working on that next month to pick the next one for it. Also, you guys could check out Geek News Marathon Night, which is done by myself as well as my wife, Andrea, where currently we are working on Season 1 of Rising of the Shield Hero, and for some reason, that video for that first episode that we did is doing gangbusters on my channel. I don't understand the amount of views that has gotten recently. I just don't. Or you could check out Geek News Anime Night, where we're checking out Season 3 of Fruits Basket, where Drak complains about how truly effed up the Soma family actually is. And it is effed up. So at that point, you guys can check out all of that stuff on the RSS feed, or if you guys have suggestions for stories, or want us to be able to cover stories, or have feedback on the podcast, you can reach out at geekyweek@gmail.com. And that's going to go ahead and do it for us tonight. I thank so much for Brinton and Alex for joining me on this wrap-up of the month of February. We look forward to so many more months with you guys. But until the next time, for myself, for Alex, and for Brinton, we will see you guys next time.